Wolf back. What is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with the early training camp risers and fallers. We're going to be diving in. Camps are always. I got the echo going. My bad. Here we go. Now we're back. But yeah, we've been at least a full week in for pretty much every team now in the NFL. The pads are coming out for most teams at this point. So we're going to dive into what are those most meaningful things, because it seems pretty absurd. Oh, we're only a week in. Don't overreact. But you also do learn some crucial information that if you're not pivoting and putting this into your ranks, this is where you can gain a huge edge by getting ahead of these notes, figuring out what matters, what doesn't. We're going to be, of course, reacting to the news and who we think should be rising but might not be, who actually is. We'll look at the underdog market and talk about who is actually going up and down. And then, of course, I love always playing the exercise of predicting who might be those next risers to come up the boards as the quote-unquote normies, the more casual drafters come on into play. So I'm excited to dive on into these. We'll go position by position, starting with risers. My man Mo, you noted that Will Levis is up already in drafts, and I don't really know why. 4.5 spots, 174 ADP. I know we've talked about him quite a bit, being one of our favorite quarterback sleepers. I'm just wondering, is there any news I'm missing or a reason why he's rising, or people just kind of waking up to Brian Callahan and what this offense could be?
Yeah, I think it's more just so that people are kind of just waking up to the offensive changes that are coming. Also, Will Levis's presence as the quarterback in Tennessee kind of just makes for some more explosive plays within the offense itself. His chuck it DGAF mentality we've kind of hinted at throughout this offseason is kind of very friendly, fantasy friendly. It's hopefully, if all things go according to plan, it's a Jameis Winston with a little bit more consistency and better receiving core than Jameis Winston ever really had. But I also think that we at RSJ definitely market movers in terms of when we put advice out, moving the market. But I do know that ETR is high on this Titans offense as a whole, so that could definitely play into it. But I also really do think it is just people starting to buy into the philosophical changes that are coming to Tennessee, as well as the fact that Will Levis could potentially be the quarterback of a competent offense. And if that offense is competent, it will probably be pretty fantasy friendly given his mentality as a gunslinging type of guy.
Exactly. Callahan, again, top 7 in pass rate. We saw him get it done even with Jake Browning, the weapons. They're doing everything they can, drafting that first-round tackle to support this guy. I do have some grounds on the boots, though. The boots on the ground. Grounds on the boots. Boots on the ground there. My college roommate now lives in Tennessee and wanted to bring his newborn son over to camp because I guess they're serving beer at Titans camp. Love to hear that. It's a great move for the Titans. He's just like, why not? Let's go have a couple beers, bring the new son out to football, see what's going on. He said Levis was horrendous, like missing every throw that possible. There's no pads on. He had one nice throw. I think everybody's seen it at this point to Tony Pollard on that wheel route. He's like, that was the throw of the day. All otherwise, he was just scattershot, throwing it over people's heads, even without pads, even without pass rush. That makes me a little nervous, but we did see plenty of great games when really not plenty. That first game, that 4 touchdowns, doubled up the rest of the season in one game for what he did in the final 8 games, only 4 more touchdowns along the way. So I've been high on him. I don't want to overact on what my college roommate says at a training camp practice, but it's got to be a little concerning. We're not really seeing those reports. We're just hearing about how pass happy they're going to be, how he's slinging it. I did just want to throw that cautionary one little tail in there that we're not seeing great stuff from the people that are actually in training camp and willing to give the real opinion there. Patrick Mahomes, though, also up 3.6 spots, up to 45 overall, now going right at the tail end of round 4, a little bit earlier at this point. I suspect we're just seeing so many good hype videos right now of bomb to Xavier Worthy, bomb to Hollywood Brown. All the reports, they are really reuniting with that deep ball that was so lacking last year. That's been the huge emphasis of Andy Reid, Mahomes himself saying that is what he has been preaching since OTAs, our coach. So I think this could really be a boost. More shootout style games, more overall game volume. I was shocked. I don't know if you've seen the note here or not. Do you know where they ranked in total points last year?
Yeah, I do. I might not have the exact number, but it was maybe 16, somewhere in like the middling offense.
Right in the middle of the pack, 15th in points last
Yeah.
year. What's even more shocking, though, is because the defense was actually pretty solid last year, 27th in total points per game when you combine them and their opponents. So it was just not those fun shootout style games we've become accustomed when you get Tyreek Hill lighting it up 80 yards down the field to kick off a game and boom, you're off to the races. That element's been lacking both for Mahomes and also their opponents. So that 6.8 ADOT, a career low for him. And you look at his scoring over his career, quarterback 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, total quarterback 1 in total points that quarterback 3 season. And then last year, quarterback 12 in fantasy points per game. Had never been outside the top 5 in QB1, in top 5 scoring. And now quarterback 12, that seems like the outlier. I know we're not really getting a huge discount, but even just last year, and we did call him the most overpriced quarterback because he was going at the QB1, right in that round 2 range. I think he is set up so much better for success, but now going in that quarterback 4-5 turn as well, where you can still stack him up pretty well in that range too. So he's going up, and I am certainly willing to continue to take my stabs at Mahomes. I think a great bet this year is just the Chiefs go bananas, and you bank on that. What are your feelings on this offense, and do you think the rise is warranted?
So, yeah, just in terms of the offensive scoring in Kansas City, last season floating right below 22 points per game, what was the Kansas City offense. That was the first time in Mahomes' career, what is it, year 6 we're about to be in, that the Chiefs have been under 28 points per game. So just like completely ridiculous, like a full 6 points per game lower. They flirted with 35 points a game in that 2018 breakout sophomore season for Mahomes. So I expect them to be much closer to that 28 points per game range. They revamped the receiving core. And I think this is also partially because of those clips, but also, people are just coming to terms like we drafted this guy close to the 1-2 turn last year, and the situation has dramatically improved. And like you said, he's never been worse than a mid-tier QB1 other than last year, and he has shown top 3 ceiling consistently. So drafting this guy in this range, it seems pretty reasonable. He's going pretty close to the end of round 4 now. So I'm not shocked that he's coming up at all. It's kind of in conjunction with some of those clips. I mean, last week we talked about Xavier Worthy potentially coming up because of some nonsense training camp clip, and lo and behold, 2 hours later, that very first training camp clip of a bomb from Mahomes to Worthy. Very impressive play. I'm not going to discount it, but of course it comes out right after we talk about it. But I want to move on to the guys that we're projecting to rise. And the guy that I have on my list is Jaden Daniels. It is I just think people are just going to kind of wake up to what he can provide as a rusher. The reports coming out of camp, unless I'm missing something, have been pretty glowing in terms of his accuracy and just general passing. And I know that there was a blurb from one of the Washington beat guys, like talking about how if pads were on and things were a full go, one of his rushing attempts would have easily ripped for like 30, 40 yards. So yeah, it's nothing but positive reports that I've seen coming out of Washington training camp for Jaden Daniels. And he provides a rushing floor rather that few quarterbacks do. He's really up there with those elite kind of guys, the Lamar Jackson types. And I was kind of looking over his college stats the other day, and I looked. His college rushing production is not transferable to the NFL just based on how the game operates. But if you cut his college production in half, he's still pacing for it was like 47 yards a game. It was a 17-game pace of 803 yards across the full season. We constantly bring up that 750-yard threshold. Every quarterback in the last 6 years who's crossed 750 rushing yards has been a top 10 quarterback. So it's if he just keeps up with if he stays healthy, and he will keep up with the rushing output to some degree at a very elite level. So I'm thinking that people are going to start coming around to this and wanting to buy Jaden Daniels.
I think it's a great call. If you hadn't have already had him on here, he would have been my prediction as well. You're getting the Terry McLaurin's. This whole offense is ignited. It's a whole different feel around here with this guy. We know that Cliff Kingsbury's offense led the league in pace and total plays across his 3 seasons calling plays there. It's going to take one preseason game. He rips off a 20-yard scramble, and then it's Konami code, everybody wake up. And there's no one else after him that has that type of rushing upside. Maybe Drake May, but you don't have the full season guaranteed for a guy like Drake May, and certainly not the same exact rushing ceiling there. So I love that call. I've been loading up on him too. I have him in my top 5 exposed quarterbacks, a guy you can take naked if you haven't gotten, even without McLaurin, if you don't have quarterback upside, all those guys, that kind of Jordan Love, Dak Prescott cut off, and even maybe ahead of those guys if you want to roll something naked at that point. I love the call. I think he is great. My prediction for who's going to rise are the elite QBs. I think we kind of hinted at the fact that more casual drafters, the quote-unquote normies, I know we say it degradingly, but it is kind of just funny that actually normal human beings are finally just starting to draft again. When you look at the redraft ADP, I'm stuck. I was writing the draft guide that's going to be out probably the end of this week, maybe Monday at the latest. Can't wait to drop that. I've been hammering away at it. The differences between the ADPs of redraft and best ball. We could do a whole show on it. I'm not going to dive in right now, but you're getting Josh Allen at 18 overall. You're getting Jalen Hurts at 24th overall. And I think both like running backs and also these elite QBs, we're going to see a big rise in general. So I think Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, that kind of round 3-4 turn, and sometimes even deep into round 4 for Jalen Hurts, we're just not going to have that within the next couple weeks. So I'm trying to stock up while I can in that 38 to 45 range, get these guys. I wouldn't even be shocked, especially Jalen Hurts, if people start to take him at the top with Devonta Smith, where he's going. I just think we got to really take advantage of this ADP we've got now, because I could totally see that flipping momentarily.
Yeah, I would not be shocked. I mean, it's just kind of been ingrained in drafters for these last couple of years that the top tier of the quarterback crop is taken in like the round 2 range. And now that they're not really coming off the board until round 3, and like you said, it's hasn't been very uncommon to see Jalen Hurts in the back half of round 4 in some of these drafts. So I completely agree that these guys are going to be coming up, seeing them more in the 20s instead of in the 40s.
Absolutely. I think we'll see how it ends up going, but that's exactly how I see it too. Well, Wolfpack, we're about to turn on to the running back position, but almost 100 of you here already. Love to see it in the first 10 minutes. Let's get that thumbs up if you enjoy what you're hearing. It will help more people continue to find us, continue to grow the channel as we start to steamroll content here a couple times live a week moving forward for these August drafts and all that good stuff. Great to see you, Bulldog, Thaddeus, some legends in there, Mark, Dylan, some great Wolfpack legends in there. Can't wait. Get all those questions in. If you have keepers, situations, any of that, we'll make sure to hit those when we do our underdog draft coming up. If you want to draft with us, we'll be drafting in about 35 or so minutes, but we got some more positions to roll through. We'll go a little bit quicker here because we have some more names. I know Mo gave me an oh shit as he opened up the document here because there were so many notes. So we're going to start to breeze through these. We won't take quite as much time on every single one, but let's move to the running backs, the key news and notes from training camp at the running back position that we think is actually important. Saquon Barkley, it's a guy that we have not been heavily drafting right now, and I don't know if I'm ready to fully change my tune, but we're getting some nuggets that are very, very intriguing. Certainly in redraft, I'm far, far more open to drafting this guy. Best ball might be a different situation, but either way, Kellen Moore saying he can play a lot of different places on the field. The OC there who has a good history of using his backs in the pass game. But then we also get in those first couple days of practice, Saquon Barkley was, quote, probably had more receptions than anyone on the team, lined up all over the formation. Eagles ran some speed option drills with Hurts and Barkley to open practice as well. So we're getting those read option plays. We're getting him lined up all over the field to the point where other beat writers are speculating that they want to do similar things the Eagles that these 49ers did with Christian McCaffrey, and they think that he could actually have that type of oversized impact. And you're talking about a top 3 line in the NFL. He's going from the bottom barrel of the league with the Giants to that type of beautiful situation. If he is going to be getting this type of creative passing game usage, which I did not fully expect, is why I hadn't really been diving too deep in there. I'm still worried about the tush push. I heard a lot of podcasts this week say like it's here to stay, even without Kelsey, that he groomed that center. They're not worried about the tush push going anywhere. That's part of my case against Barkley, but I was also worried just with Jalen Hurts constantly running for first downs. The receiving usage might take a little bit of a hit too. But if he is going to be lining up all over the place, I know it's just a couple practices, but that is the type of usage that will get me to start checking his name quite a bit more. So he bumped up in my rankings. Are you more willing to take some stabs on Barkley? I know we've both been a little underweight on him, Mo.
So I'm more, let me start with one thing. I am not buying into this because you know who else who has been quote unquote getting run with the ones and quote unquote getting a ton of targets and receptions. Both Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley have seen the same sort of reports. So first of all, I'm like not buying into like this these like workload and usage type of reports for Barkley, but I will be trying to get some more of him because he's at the back half of round 2 now. And I mean, like we've talked about, like when more people start to come into these drafts that haven't been drafting all summer, they're gonna be like, oh my God, Saquon Barkley, back half of round 2, he's on the Eagles. It's one of the best offenses in the league. And he's Saquon Barkley. Like, how can you not be drafting this guy? And I would not be shocked to see him start to push up to where we see like Jahmyr Gibbs at the 1-2 turn. Like, I don't think he like passes Jahmyr Gibbs or anything, but like making a push into that range of that early round 2 as opposed to the late round 2 that we've seen. So I'm more interested.
I could see him even jumping Gibbs though. Like you said, one, the fact that he's going in that 1-2 range already in redraft leagues, people are going to be used to that ADP. But two, another one of those situations where first preseason game, he's out there for every single snap with the ones. You just see how behind that line, 6 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, catches a receiving touchdown, and boom, like he's back in round 1. I could totally see that situation, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not. I think the price is fine where it is now, but I know I'm going to be uncomfortable with it because he's steadily, like not steadily falling, but he was up there close to the 1-2 turn to start the offseason. And like all of the best ball cabal per se has pushed him down, and people are trashing on him, myself included, has pushed him down and towards the back of round 2. But so I'm just going to be looking to buy him before that price starts to come up because I want some Saquon Barkley, although I will definitely not be overweight by any means. But one guy that is coming up with merit because of the training camp reports is Chase Brown. And this is a guy that I have been pretty nervous on throughout the offseason. He's shown a pretty unique, not unique necessarily, but interesting and intriguing athletic profile. He had that big splashy play last year, but at the end of the day, it was a really small sample size. And he had some pretty big red flags, just an absolute liability in pass protection, pretty low success rate as a rusher. So my stance on this as just like someone who's fairly in tune with the Bengals stuff is this is a guy who's going to be given the opportunity to be the go-to guy perhaps. And I do think that Zach Moss will be there for pass protection, which kind of eats into what Chase Brown can do if he's not really out there for third downs or no huddle or in stuff like 2 minutes, stuff like that. But I think he'll be given the opportunity to win the 1A job. But I'm still really not so sure that he has the talent or skill set to do so. The stuff that I've seen from last year, both regarding the pass protection and just what kind of back he profiles to be, this like kind of big hit, big play, like Kenneth Walker type, like low success rate and a lot of plays that don't keep them on schedule and keep the chains moving. It makes me nervous, but the buzz is warranted, or the rise following the buzz rather is warranted. And I can see why he's coming up drafts. And I think that there's a possibility that we kind of talked about this pre-show, a possibility that he passes Zach Moss in ADP. But how are you feeling on this situation? Because I still remain a little speculative.
Yeah, I'm ready to go all in on it. I've been just buying the Bengals backfield in general. We're talking about a team that's likely to be top 7 in overall scoring. I've been getting a mix with, if I don't land Moss, I really wanted to get Chase Brown in my drafts. I didn't want to leave a draft without him. And like you said, I wouldn't be shocked if that ultimately flips should he continue to get, as the quote said, the majority of reps with the ones. Now, Moss does work in. As you mentioned, Moss is a phenomenal pass protector. And when push comes to shove, Joe Burrow is this team. He is this franchise. They're not going to put him at risk if Brown is not significantly improved there. So that's going to be huge for his value. Just one missed blitz pickup in the preseason, and this whole thing will flip. So I'm definitely going to keep investing in them both, but I want to go out of my way. Whereas he's going right now, Chase Brown in the 120s, I'm starting to see drafters take him in the 110s. I wouldn't be shocked if he starts climbing into the 90s or so with these type of reports, because either way, Joe Mixon leaves and opens up 78.9% of the opportunities. That was 320 touches, 66 targets, and a ton of red zone work, which again, most likely goes to Zach Moss, the bigger bruiser back, who's also had injury concerns every year of his career, though. And people, I think, discount the fact Chase Brown was actually a bell cow for multiple seasons in college. He does look smaller, but he's a thicker guy as well. He could hold up to that workload. It is not out of the question that he ends up getting about 65% of the work. Everyone just assumes he's that third down back, that slow scat back. I could totally see him getting a humongous role there. Again, 71 attempts inside the 20. That was the third most in the league. 38 attempts inside the 10. That was the first most for Joe Mixon last year. A ton of valuable touches. 13.4 touchdowns a season across his past years did Joe Mixon average. Does that most likely go to Moss? Probably, but there's a chance it goes to Chase Brown, who again is getting the most snaps with the ones. You really have to pay big attention to it. So I want all these guys. I'm definitely investing in this backfield. I have probably about 15% Moss and about 8% Chase Brown right now. I'd certainly like that to get much more, about 10 and 10 of each, or maybe even a bit more of both those guys to close out this drafting season. Did you have something else on the Brad? Before we move on,
I just want to say, I feel like there's like kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of who Chase Brown is as a football player. Like you kind of mentioned, like there's some people who are thinking like that he's this like scat back, like third down type of guy. That never really was him. That wasn't his thing at Illinois. He didn't do that in Cincinnati in year one. And I think it's just like, because of that one big screenplay that he ripped off, like people have like kind of like pigeonholed him into being this like type of like change of pace. And like as a rusher, he can be a change of pace back because we kind of saw him hit that second gear that Moss doesn't have. But I think that there's like just some understanding of who Chase Brown is as a football player. And it's like he's kind of like you said at college at Illinois, he was kind of that grinded out, a bunch of carries, workhorse type. And I don't know, like, is he going to beat Zach Moss out for that role? We'll see. He'll have the opportunity, like I said, but I'm still not sold. But we can get on to Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
what do you have?
42% of the. I mean, we could. This is going to become the Chase Brown show, but I just looked. He had 42% of his team's total yards and touchdowns in college. That was the 93rd percentile in terms of what they call the quote unquote dominator ranking. This guy can do it. And we're again talking, yes, I think because he has that elite speed, that explosiveness that you don't usually find this late in drafts, that people think he's only change of pace. But we're talking like a 9.8 RAS score, relative athletic score, a 40 time in the 95th percentile, the second fastest ball carrier speed of last year. There's just so much to like about this guy that if he actually is going to get the majority of the touches, and we know he can actually handle that, should he get it like this, I'm telling you, I really think Chase Brown could be that league winner this year. That like, if you did not get him when he was going in the 100s, you're going to go back and regret it. I'm so excited to see that he's getting the majority of snaps right now. It's a huge one. We can now move on to Joe Mixon, the man who departed there to create such a valuable hole for the Bengals, and talk about that he's going right into another beautiful situation with the Texans. They've already come out and said Bobby Slowick of the 49ers, that beautiful zone scheme where they married the run and pass, has said that Joe Mixon, quote, an absolute workhorse in every regard. Talk about a quote that will get it moving downstairs. My goodness. He's just a really good running back in all regards. It doesn't matter what run scheme you run. He runs zone. He runs gap. He's been used as a receiver. He's really done everything. And Mixon himself saying that he's preparing his body for a huge workload, the biggest of his career, based on what he has been promised. I think it's all lining up for a ton of volume, whether it's efficient or not. It's going to be a ton of work in a great offense. And at the pick 60 or so right now in best ball, that's another guy that goes in those 30s or so in redraft. I could totally see him skyrocketing as more and more casual drafters get in there, and as more and more of these positive reports continue to come out. I'm all about it, and I'm not buying these Damian Priest hype storms that are coming out while he's out right now with the injury for Mixon. So I'm all about it. What do you think of Mixon as a Bengals fan now watching him go over the Texans?
It's like one of those ones like that the fantasy guy in me like wants to just shit all over this guy. Terrible efficiency, just all around, like falls flat on his ass after 3 yards, like doesn't do much, but he has the skill set that he can earn a lot of touches, and he's going to earn a lot of touches once again. So like, I'm just kind of like folding and drafting the guy because it's a good offense again. He's going to probably consolidate the vast majority of the work like he did in Cincinnati. And we saw when he was in a good offense consolidating the work, top 10 running back in 3 straight seasons. And I mean, it's kind of like setting up to be the same type of deal, like criminally inefficient, but gets a ton of work and just pays off in fantasy no matter how much you hate it. So that's kind of what I am. I'm just kind of folding and just drafting the guy because you're probably going to top 15 running back if he stays healthy, most likely, and isn't so terrible that he cedes work to Pierce. So it is what it is. I'm drafting him even though I don't want to, and it feels gross. But one running back room I am excited to be drafting is Denver Broncos backfield. We were talking a little bit about our exposures before this show. I am overweight on all 3 of the big names in this backfield: Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, and Jaleel McLaughlin. Hit on it a little bit last week, but in Sean Payton's coaching career, his backfield as a whole, like total running back points, have ranked top 2 in 12 of 17 seasons. That's from Sean Siegel over at RotoViz. So just absolutely nonsense. The kind of the fertile fantasy landscape that Sean Payton can provide in his offense. So just looking to scoop up shares of this running back room, no matter where it comes from. And the reports out of Broncos training camp have been mixed. I am personally not buying at all the Javonte Williams roster bubble narrative. I am not looking into that whatsoever. And he has come down a little bit, really not that much in ADP, but I'm still getting him in my drafts. I think I'm at like 14, 15% Javonte Williams. So I'm still grabbing him a fair amount. Audric Estime, he's still pretty free in the 190s right now. But if this drumbeat continues, like seeing him push up into that 180s, 170s range wouldn't be shocking. If someone is going to supplant Javonte Williams as that kind of early down type, it would be Estime. But I'm picking up shares of this running back room all around.
I think it's definitely the right approach. I know when we talked about it last week and what Sean Siegel drops that comparison to is the Dolphins backfield, where we might not know exactly who it's going to be, but we know value is going to be coming from there. So we do want to take as many stabs as we can. So I think you've been definitely playing it quite well. In that sense, I am underweight right now to Javonte Williams, and it does scare me. Coming in underweight at camp with 221 pounds, slimmed down 11 pounds, at Sean Payton's behest. He said he set a goal for him and that he made sure to go and hit it because he felt like his coach really cared him. And that's the type of stuff Sean Payton, like when you get into his good graces, he's gonna pay it off for you. And he seemed really excited about Javonte, saying he looks slimmer, he looks sharp. He definitely lost the weight, and I'm proud of him for it. And he also then referenced the fact that, it usually takes the complete heal of these multi-ligament injuries typically take 2 years till you regain that type of explosiveness. And even without that year to regain that, he still fed him 264 touches last year. That was over 50 more than what Jaleel McLaughlin and Samaje Perine combined for last year. So he was the dominant force in this backfield, even when he was lacking that explosiveness. All just to say is, yes, I do want to get myself some more Javonte Williams. I do like Audric Estime, the big size. He could potentially supplant him at the goal line. A lot of this does also come down to the idea that Samaje Perine is going to get cut. If he doesn't, and now we've got 4 heads kind of mixing in, it would be hideous. But ultimately, a lot of the speculation is he is going to get chopped this year, and he'll be an interesting guy where he lands. What if he goes to the Bengals, or we're just hyping up, or the Cowboys? There's definitely some situations where Samaje Perine, even the Chiefs as the backup there to Pacheco, could land with some value. So I don't even mind taking him in these last few rounds of drafts with the hope that he's going to get cut. But yeah, it's that kind of quote-unquote directional bet. A backfield with a ton of fertile grounds. Again, I love that stat. 12 of 17 years, top 2 in total backfield points, top 5 in total expected receiving points every single year. And they also led the league last year in running back targets. And that's when I really hang my hat on, is because Russell Wilson, until he became a Bronco with Sean Payton, never targeted his running backs, was always bottom 3 in the league. And then he goes to this, was it a Drew Brees thing? No, we also it's definitely a system thing here with Sean Payton. So we know there's going to be a bevy of targets, especially again with Bo Nix too. That's even more so, like, get the ball out, get it on schedule, get it into the guy's hands, get it to your running backs. He already is so adept at that. So I'm with you. I love loading up on this backfield. I had not been going at Javonte. I'd been just targeting the cheap guys. And Javonte's not that expensive. I don't know why I haven't been going in, but these positive reports of how he's looking. He's another one. It looks like the Javonte of old. All those type of camp reports come out in the first series, getting all the work with the ones reports we're seeing right now. If we see that in the preseason action, that's another guy that could jump 2 rounds plus. So get him while he's in the hundreds. I'm with you there. I think it's a great bet. This one's pretty quick. I don't know if there's much meat to dig into it, but I think it's really worth bringing up still that Kyren Williams is getting all the work right now with the first team. He's fully over the foot injury. It was one of our kind of must monitors. Is he looking good? Is he healthy? And what is that workload going to look like with Blake Corum? Now, it is early. We haven't really seen how it shakes out in the preseason. If we get a drive where they march down the field and Blake Corum comes in and caps off a touchdown there, we might feel different. But right now, all the reports are saying this is definitely the clear lead guy. Sure, they're going to spell him at times to try to keep him healthy. McVay himself saying we have to be smart about it when we get into the regular season. We have to be smart about those touches. But still, even with being minefield, in the meantime, he's going to go. He's going to lead the way in that running back room. And I thought he started off so well so far in camp. He even said, hey, McVay just loves this guy. Talked about, man, did I miss you in the offseason? It's the first thing I said to him, watching him run out there. He certainly looked good, didn't look any different than the stud that we know he is. Like, he just glows about this guy. He had him on his fantasy team last year, so no reason why he loves him so much. I love Kyren Williams. And then Charles Robinson, who's usually pretty tapped in, especially to the LA teams there, saying he's the clear number one as well. So just a lot of hype and steam that Kyren, this is not going to be a 1A, 1B. It is a clear one versus a nice, good backup now in case he does get hurt. That makes me feel a lot better about Kyren, though, who's still going right now in like the middle of round 3. Another one that on my predicted risers list that casual drafters are going to see. This guy's going 15, 16 in my redraft league. How is he falling to 33 in some of these? So while he's going in that 27 to 33 range, even I'm starting to take him at the top. I took him on a CD Lamb build the other day. I think Kyren Williams is definitely an early riser with these kind of early drum beats we're seeing.
Yeah, I've been drafting Corum as the best pure handcuff in fantasy football. Sure. I've been of this mentality that this is Kyren's backfield to lose. And obviously, like, there's some reason to be nervous about it, like the injury history and stuff like that. That's kind of really the only reason. But that's like the only capacity I've been drafting Corum in as like the top pure handcuff. So I don't really have much to add there. I think what we're seeing out of the reports that we're hearing are pretty spot on for what we should be expecting for Kyren to be that bell cow type once again. But the next guy who is coming up draft boards, it's absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It's 14 and a half picks, I believe. Yeah, 14 and a half picks. He's up in the last 2 weeks. He's back up into the 120s is Nick Chubb after bottoming out around pick 140. Come on, guys. Like, really? He squatted. We all knew that Nick Chubb could squat a ton of weight. This is not the first offseason where Nick Chubb squatting has been used to fill these Instagram accounts, like offseason need for content. Come on, really? Like, we all know that this is a strong human being. Are we shocked that he's squatting a bunch of weight? That is not playing football. He is not juking guys out. He is not having to evade tackles. He is not having to hit the hole, hit the gap. This is complete nonsense. A round and a half? Like, really? Like, and he's going to keep coming up too. Like the Dr. Edwin Porras, it was Deepak Chona, the other very respected Twitter fantasy doc. He's projecting week 8 to 9 for Chubb's return. Like, really? We're gonna push this guy up almost 2 rounds because he's squatting. What are you expecting out of this guy? He's going to be back mid-season. Who knows what kind of form he's going to be in? Like, if you're that Chubb's just got that dog in him, like, be my guest. Be my guest and draft him at pick like 110, whatever he's going to end up at. I do not care for it whatsoever. A multi-ligament tear for an older running back, second time in his career in the last 7 years that he's had this kind of knee injury. It's absolute buffoonery from these people who are trying to push him up draft boards. You can consider me all the way out. I was grabbing him a little bit when he was down in the 140s. I all off season I was kind of saying like that 120 to 130 range was where I would start to become comfortable, and that number has steadily fallen for me. 135, 140 was where the number ended up, and that's when I started to click Nick Chubb's name. Give me a hard pass on him back in the 120s.
I'm mostly with you here. The one case I'll make for him is we've talked so much on this program about back-weighted production in best ball and how crucial that is. And I get that it's typically rookies, these late bloomers. But let's say they do hold him out till week 8 and they really make sure he gets himself fully ready to go. I wouldn't actually even hate that. I honestly think there's 125 or so range. There's still enough players going in this range that I probably wouldn't click Nick Chubb. But you got to think that back-weighted production is so crucial to us. If we got a 90% Nick Chubb, I mean, we're talking again, last year, the first 2 games, he would have been the top 5 pick after those, the way he was looking. So if we get this elite run scheme, a really strong, overall offensive line, Kevin Stefanski, I've just always believed in it. If that ends up taking off for even just the last 6 or so games of the year, I think that's not, you could make an argument that's well worth pick 125. When you look at the other running backs in that range, the Marshawn Lloyds, who I love, I like these guys. So I'm not trying to make a strong case against them. I take these guys over Nick Chubb, but I'm just trying to think about my own thought process here. If I'm taking Marshawn Lloyd for the chance that Jacobs gets hurt or the rookie, back-weighted production comes in, shouldn't I put that same back-weighted production argument for a running back who I have seen just for year in and year out, the best pure runner in the NFL? I know it's kind of a running joke, but it's also really true. Like, he is a steamroller. He is a man. He has the dog. So I don't know. I think, yes, I get that it sucks to watch the price come up because I was dabbling a lot when he was in that 140, 150s. Like, him or Kendre Miller. I think I know who I went with, and I know which one doesn't have the dog in him for sure. We'll talk about that later. I don't know. I'm not writing Nick Chubb off the way you are by any means, especially again, you've preached back-weighted production so much. So why can't Nick Chubb be that guy for the last 7 games that just goes bananas?
Because we continue to see guys coming back from these multi-ligament ACL tears and being awful, just awful shells of their former selves.
Squatting 700 pounds.
I don't. Once again, it's not football. That's it's throw him out there to be an Olympic weightlifter. Send him over to Paris. I have him squat for a living instead of playing football because they're 2 different activities. I mean,
no.
Are we gonna?
I totally agree. I think it's asinine that he's up 14 picks on a squat video like that. I will never disagree with. It's more so I think there's paths to value, especially if Nick Chubb does end up being this. Would you be shocked if Nick Chubb, I mean, you're a Bengals fan, you've seen this man do work. If he is just built different and comes back and is even 85% Nick Chubb by week 8, that's going to have some real value in this Browns running game.
Will it have value? Yes. Will I be shocked if he is 85%? Yes. I don't think he comes back to be I think he's just a shell of his former self. The value in Nick Chubb is insane rushing efficiency and punching in a touchdown almost every week. That's what drives Nick Chubb's fantasy value. Every season of his career, 5 yards per carry. Not including last season, of course, he played a game and a half, but every season of his career up till last season, 5 yards a carry. And he still was that 5 yards a carry threshold last season, but it doesn't really count. You can throw it out. I don't think I would have to fact check myself. I'm like Davis Maddock making up stats here. I'm pretty sure he's the only running back to ever open their career with at least 100 carries and 5 yards a carry every single season. I mean, no, I don't think no matter what way you put it, whatever stat you pull out of your ass, it's one of the most efficient running backs ever. He is absolutely dominant. Can he be one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL after coming off this kind of injury? I remain incredibly speculative, to put it kindly.
All right. Hey, we'll see. Again, I'm not dabbling a ton in the Nick Chubb pool, but again, I just would not be shocked if week 17, he has 150 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, and everyone that didn't have him goes home. If you're actually somehow there with him. We'll
I'll
see.
be going home.
For sure. One other riser right now, also in that injured neck of the woods, is J.K. Dobbins. And I'll tell you, I know he's a lot cheaper than Nick Chubb. I would much rather have Nick Chubb on my team than J.K. Dobbins. He's up 9.4 spots to 167. And as a big investor in this backfield, I believe in the Greg Roman scheme, believe in the efficiency of it, the volume of it, the Justin Herbert offense, going to generate opportunities, and it is pretty wide open. I have a ton of Gus Edwards because of how open I think this backfield is. I still don't even love Gus Edwards as a player. So if J.K. Dobbins was good to go, yeah, like I loved him in the Ravens. It's such a versatile guy. You're an Ohio State guy. He was phenomenal. But ultimately, you look at running backs post Achilles tear since 2015. Cam Akers, 5 of 22 games, then tears his other Achilles the next year. James Robinson, he had 4.6 yards a carry before the Achilles, 3.9 the next year, and played in only 12 games. Marlon Mack had 48 carries in 3 years after the original tear and then retore it again. Tariq Cohen has not played since. Justice Hill, low usage pre-Achilles, and I guess last year was his career highlight. It wasn't much. Diontae Foreman, the poster boy of recovering, but 22 carries in the 2.5 years following that first Achilles tear. It took him a very long time to get back and going. And again, we're talking about Diontae Foreman. Has not really done anything special. Never saw from Isaiah Crowell again. Arian Foster, that was kind of his death knell. He had 22 carries after he tore his Achilles. And then a guy named Brandon Oliver, who no one knows, but he only saw 24 attempts anyways. So it is just not a track record. There's literally nobody has come back and ever been successful here. And we're all acting like J.K. Dobbins, who has multiple knee tears, now an Achilles tear, is just going to walk in and be a starter for the Chargers because he walked and had a fun press conference and looked energetic there and told us that this was light work for his Achilles. I don't buy it myself. And even if he did somehow look like the explosive J.K. Dobbins we knew and loved, you see how all these other guys overcompensating, re-tear a different Achilles. It just – I'm not in on J.K. Dobbins at all. There's no price that unless I've seen him fall like 180, 190 in way older drafts, and I took him like once or twice, but now he's going the 150s, 160s. I'm out completely. I will not be touching him at all. I do not buy this rise.
Yeah, after hearing my Nick Chubb rant, I think you could guess that I am completely on board with this. I love J.K. Dobbins to death as an Ohio State graduate, but I cannot buy in on this. When the poster boy for success is Diontae Foreman, I cannot grasp onto that and buy in. I believe he'll be given the chance to be the secondary back to Gus Edwards. I do not believe he will be able to succeed in holding down that role.
I think that is very fair. Well, the last running back note, I appreciate you letting me take this one because it's Dylan Laube out of UNH. I've been hyping him a ton this offseason, and what do we get in the early days of training camp? Offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. Laube is off to a great start. The game comes naturally to him. He doesn't really have the errors, and that's cool to see from such a young guy. And then even more important, Antonio Pierce, a guy that definitely plays off vibes and is all about riding who he's feeling good with. That dude is special. I like him. He's gritty. He's a gritty running back. One thing, he surprises you with his speed. He's going to be a difficult matchup, and it's already showing up in practice. We've been starved at who's going to be that next Kyren Williams. There is not going to be a hit at the level of him, but everyone's been trying to hunt who could be that running back in those last couple rounds that ends up going off and really having some huge games for you, becoming a meaningful player. Zamir White is the lone starter here. Alexander Madison's the backup. Give me a break. Laube, if he continues to impress, catches a wheel route touchdown in a preseason game, could skyrocket. I think he has standalone third down value right off the jump, could score on special teams as well with these new kickoff rules. And it's only a matter of time if Zamir White continues to just kind of be a guy and Laube continues to flash. It's not the likeliest outcome, but I'd say I would realistically put it 25 to 35% chance that Laube makes some starts by the end of the year, especially if an injury even happens there at that point. So I'm all about this training camp news. I already have like 27, 30% Laube before this, and I'm going to keep investing. As even if he rises, I'll probably still continue to be on the train. But just like I had like Tank Dell in 70% of drafts at this point last year, like I've been just hammering that last round Laube. So it's great to see this positive steam. I think you got a little bit on the train with me too, right? Have you added some shares of Laube?
Yeah. I'm up near like 20% because of you. I completely bought in. He was like kind of one of my go-to 18th round clicks, and it's making me happy that he is getting some positive buzz. I've also kind of just been on during our pre-draft show, like pre-NFL draft show. I said that really anyone that the Raiders would draft, I could be convinced that he could contend with Zamir White. The range of outcomes for White is just so ridiculously wide. We kind of talked about this. Like he could either be top 5 in the NFL in carries, or he could be displaced by some combination of Madison and Lauby by week 6. Like it's such a small sample size from last season of him being the starter. Like you don't really know what you're going to get out of him. So I'm looking to buy into this, and I already have, and it's just making me happy that he is getting some positive buzz. I'm sure you are in the same boat.
I absolutely am. I love that Mark G comments in Laba equals Woodhead. It's a great, it seems like a very easy comparison to a white guy that's athletic and can catch the ball. But also worth noting, though, Tom Telesco, the GM there now for the Raiders, was with the Chargers when they brought in Woodhead, was with the team when they signed undrafted free agent Austin Eckler. He does have an eye for this mold of player, and you should not discount that. He's found him before. He might have found his next gem. I love Laba. I think he is a phenomenal last round pick. We're now moving to wide receivers. We have definitely not picked up the pace like we said we would. 45 minutes in, we haven't even hit a single receiver quite yet. Wolfpack, 170 or so of you here. Love to see those numbers. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button, whether you're on Twitter, YouTube, the X, whatever it's called, Facebook, all those thumbs up really do help us out, getting to more people, the likes, the shares, the retweets. If you enjoy what you're hearing, we'll be drafting in about 15 to 20 minutes. We'll try to pick up the pace here with the wide receivers. I think we'll be able to do so. But thanks again so much for being here. We'll be drafting momentarily. My first wide receiver riser, though, I like to always highlight the guys that I wasn't quite in on, and now I'm trying to bump some shares up pretty aggressively, and that's Diontae Johnson for me. It was really just Bryce Young. I could not buy it. I've always really liked Diontae Johnson as a player, but Dave Canales really like him as a play caller too. And when he says something like, quote, as we build our offense, we really try to feature someone. And for us right now, where's Diontae Johnson at? Just flat out telling you, like, we are structuring our offense around this guy. I know they have Jonathan Brooks coming in as an explosive playmaker in the backfield, but that could take a little bit to get there. Coming off that ACL tear later in the season, I bet you he's more of a second half player. So right off the bat, maybe the focal point here, Diontae Johnson, you can see all those clips with him talking about the X receiver, the Mike Evans role. We need a guy that can really dominate and win at every single level wherever we line you up. They've already hyped him up that way, and they're talking again about doing that. If there's one thing about Bryce Young that went well, Jacob Gibbs, he had to dig deep to find this one, but a really interesting stat that Bryce Young ranked 4th in fantasy points data, accurate throw rate when targeting an open receiver, not including screens. They just had no open receivers. Adam Thielen, his open score was 62 out of 100. That's the wide receiver 37. And the next closest Panther ranked 112. He had no weapons to throw to at all. And then comes in Diontae Johnson, number 1 in open score from 2021 to 2023, ahead of A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson. It makes me question exactly how valid that open score is when you're better than those guys. But hey, actually in his shiftiness and finding the soft spots and just being a available outlet for your quarterback, he's as good as anybody. How often do we see Big Ben just finding him for 12 targets, 15 targets a game? And we just saw Adam Thielen putting up those stats for at least a half of the season with Bryce Young. So this is a guy that I did not have much of. I was just, Panthers, cross him off. It's too hideous. I believe in Canales. I believe in Diontae Johnson. I think Bryce Young, if this quarterback whisperer that turned around Baker Mayfield, turned around Geno Smith, can work his magic with the number 1 overall pick, there's something that could happen here. I'm getting in at the minimum. I want to get in on Diontae Johnson. What do you think? 170 targets, 900 yards, and 2 touchdowns? What are we getting here for Diontae Johnson?
No. I think 130 or so is the more likely outcome. I mean, it's I think he's a good pick at cost. I've been a Diontae Johnson truther for years now. I was all over him last year. Didn't end up panning out for a variety of reasons, but posted a career high in yards per route run last season. So despite what people think, he there was just some external factors, health, chemistry with the team and the quarterback. Still productive last season, though. So I'm going to continue to buy in once again. I also do not have nearly enough shares, so I will be looking to bump them up once, just the same as you.
Awesome. Love to hear that. One guy I do have a good amount of, and I'm going to keep adding on, is Malik Neighbors. Just one of those special profiles. Any other year would have been the clear-cut number one wide receiver, and some people validly debate whether he is actually a better player than Marvin Harrison. I don't buy that myself, but we don't need to have that debate anyways, because the fact that it's even a conversation tells you just how good Malik Neighbors is. Probably more explosive, more deadly after the catch than Marvin Harrison, and does some things even better in his own right. And everything that you love about the guy has reportedly been on display throughout Giants camp so far. Highlight reel, over the shoulder, toe tapping grabs, end arounds where he's just knifing through the entire defense before anybody can catch up to him. A beat writer ultimately saying, I preface this by saying, I know it's very early, but Malik Neighbors has that special quality the Giants have not had since Odell Beckham. He, quote unquote, Malik Neighbors demoralizes defenses. And there are actually some videos where you see him just make a catch over a guy on his own team and just celebrate in front of him. And the defender just goes back to the huddle with his head down. There's very few receivers that have that type of ability. I know he's attached to Daniel Jones. I know this offense was one of the worst to watch, but actually were one of the highest in terms of no huddle rate, in terms of pass rate, in terms of overall pace. They just never put the ball in the end zone because they had really no weapons to ultimately do that with. So I think we got star swag, this upside guy. I'm not going to fully go back into Daniel Jones ever. That was too traumatizing of an experience. But Malik Neighbors, whether it's Jones throwing to him, I actually do really like Drew Lock, though. It's a nice backup plan there now. I think Neighbors, this round 3, he's starting to creep in early round 2. But anytime I can find him in round 3, and even at that top, if I have CMC and I'm looking for a wide receiver punch, this is just more confirmation that he should 100% belong in that conversation. I'm all in on Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, super special talent. Situation's less than ideal, but I mean, you can still reasonably convince yourself into believing in Dable and just his scheme and what he can do. And Daniel Jones being competent enough to be able to get the ball to Neighbors and allow him.
Remember how he used Stephon Diggs just a few years ago? Moved him all over in the backfield, when he was with the Bills. 180 targets. That really could happen this year. I know it's crazy, but he's going to be that focal point. They don't even have Saquon. There's nobody else there. This is going to be the centerpiece of that offense. And there's very few teams that have that type of receiver you can build the offense around. This is him.
Want to buy into opportunity and talent, and he's got both of those things. So yes. I am buying in for Neighbors, and I think everyone should be. But Jameson Williams, I don't have too strong of a take here. I feel like I've said this already today, but just such a wide range of outcomes for Jameson Williams. The Jared Goff, super low ADOT, among the lowest rate of deep targets among quarterbacks throughout his career, especially with the Lions last season. Focal points of the running backs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. I have a hard time buying into the buzz, especially after he's gotten buzz offseason after offseason. So I don't have a super strong take here. I'll get him to pair with some of these Detroit stacks, but I'm not. I get that he goes in a range where it's just not a lot of exciting options, and if you need wide receiver and you need some guy who can astronomically hit, it makes sense to grab Williams. But I continue to have a hard time with him.
Well, at least share what the hype is here, that he has, quote, been getting open against the secondary routinely. He's a man on a mission, says Dan Campbell. And then the beat writer from The Athletic noting he looks like a different player. If you watch some of the videos, I think that's what mostly intrigues me. I agree with the deep passing. It's not one of Goff's. He can do it. He just doesn't typically do it. But it's more so the fact that Williams is dominating more so on those short routes. We saw him do it at Alabama. And that's where it's as you just look at just the prospect, and you can't, I know you can't just toss out the 3 years of very up and down to almost no production for a long stretch of that. You can't just throw that away. I understand that. I'm not trying to do that. But if you were just to look at the profile, first round receiver, top 15 pick, Alabama, 99th percentile speed, and it just ended up taking him a few extra years to put it together, and he suddenly blows up. when you're talking about the range he goes in that round 8 to 9, where it's just the receivers have completely run dry, the tap is completely shut off, there's nothing left, and you need a fourth receiver. This is the type of profile I want to bet on. A guy that really could. He has the contingency upside if something happened to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who apparently played. Well, what was the injury? He played like a torn oblique. Like, you're probably never going to miss time, given that dude is just the absolute man. And I get Sam Laporte is there. Gibbs is now ascending. So how much volume is actually going to be there? Probably not enough to have a true blow up, but he could wreck the game at any point. Truly game-breaking speed. So where he goes, the actually only other guy going in his range is the next one we have on here that I really do like, and that's Curtis Samuel. So I already talked about being moved all around, taking on, quote, a bevy of roles, according to Joe Bashilia of The Athletic here, talking about lining up all over the formation, the backfield, just everywhere. Joe Brady is moving this guy in motion, setting him up to succeed, and he has been, quote unquote, one of the favorite targets alongside Dalton Kincaid. And at this point, I think that's another guy in Curtis Samuel that could absolutely rise up here. He finished when last time he played with Joe Brady in 2020 was the wide receiver 23. That was with Teddy Bridgewater throwing him the rock. And we know that the Bills have vacated. We've talked about the stat how many times on the show? 3,353 air yards, most in the league. 73% air yard share, most in the league. 317 targets, second most in the league. 54% target share, second most in the league. And a whopping 86% of their wide receiver target share. They are desperate for somebody to step up and dominate that receiver workload. And I think it's based on all these reports, the way they're moving around, Curtis Samuel targeting him heavily, the highlight plays he's already making in camp seems to be the focal point of a Josh Allen-led passing attack right now. I'm all about it. Are you buying the Curtis Samuel hype? Is there another Bills receiver you're looking at? What are you thinking here, Mo?
Oh, yeah. I talked about it last week. The Curtis Samuel has been, and with these reports, will continue to be my preferred Bills receiver at cost. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid, the favorite to lead the team in targets, but throughout the offseason, I have been a Khalil Shakir doubter, and early in the offseason, they were pretty much sandwiched in terms of their ADP. And I was grabbing Samuel, and I will continue to do so. So I don't have a whole lot to add there. Obviously, a lot of availability in the offense, and specifically with among the receivers. So I'm going to continue to buy into Curtis Samuel. The next guy we've got here, we have been treated to the full cycle of Rashad Bateman this offseason, including the cycle has completed in the last 3.5 hours. So we have once again disappointed last season. And then we get Harbaugh coming out with this is our guy. We want to make it work. I can't remember. The specific quote was like, we view him as a top receiver in the league and we want him to be used like that. It was something along those lines, direct from the mouth of babes, out of John Harbaugh's mouth. And then 3 hours ago, he has come down with some sort of injury, leaves camp. Harbaugh refuses to say what sort of injury it is, and he says it's quote unquote nothing to worry about. But I mean, this is the story with Rashad Bateman. It's like, oh, this is finally the year, and then he gets hurt, and we're entering that never-ending cycle once again with Rashad Bateman. He's coming up draft boards. I'm willing to kind of bend over and take him, but pause. But I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to draft him. And but now with the injury, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's such a tricky one, and especially because that Houston-Baltimore game is so tricky to get pieces of when you're stacking it in best ball. There's very, very rare talent that's late, in the fact that he was getting this drumbeat since the 27th, going to get the ball a lot more on the 27th of February was the quote. Then Todd Monken in May, tremendous growth. And like you said, expected to be the top receiver in the league was John Harbaugh just on Monday. And then, of course, the injury. So it is the exact cycle that you hit. I don't know what to make of it, but I won't completely fade him until I know what this injury is, because it's just so hard to get pieces of that game if I've been building out that stack. There's not much to add with Hollywood Brown here, other than the fact that Mahomes is loving him. No one told me, says Mahomes, how much he can actually do on the football field. He can run those over the middle routes. He can run really good routes at every layer. He can run deep. It's not just like fast is the only thing he can do. So the fact that he's impressing Mahomes, we've seen the highlight catches down the field happening already. And just to reiterate again that this team has been the first in pass rate over expectation in every year of Mahomes' career. It was just last year, the lowest ADOT, 6.8. But we're seeing that vertical game coming back here. So we should not expect just the 15th in points, the 27th in total points per game. And we're going to be getting a lot more of those Kansas City shootouts we came to know and love. I think Hollywood Brown could be a big piece of it. Now we know Rashee Rice is also listed on the risers, though, and actually rising. I think it's good that Hollywood Brown, his price actually dropped a couple spots, probably because Rashee Rice is coming up there. Do you anticipate that? Is that just kind of no news is good news in people's eyes, and they just think a suspension might not be happening? Or what's kind of the deal with Rashee Rice's rise, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I've seen people starting to push the idea that this suspension gets pushed off to 2025, and yeah, I really do think that in this situation, no news is good news, and I think that the correlated move with Rashee Rice coming up, I do think it could very easily be Hollywood Brown coming down. So I would not be shocked to see Hollywood, regardless of the positive training camp reports. I do think that he could come down a couple of spots, especially as people become more and more okay with drafting Rashee Rice in those middle rounds. He's kind of becoming a round 5 guy now. We've steadily seen him come, oh, you can grab Rashee Rice in the 7th round. Oh, you can grab Rashee Rice still in the 6th round. And now it is coming into that 5th round range where he is you have to spend some semi-legitimate draft capital to get him. But I still think at the end of the day, I mean, we don't have a Chiefs wide receiver going inside the top 24 wide receivers still. So grabbing pieces here and there, no matter what it is, just seems like a good idea.
110%. In that division, too, the Los Angeles Chargers, wide open target share, the most vacated targets in the league with 395. How is it going to get split up was one of these stories we said you must watch in camp, and we're getting some early signal here as to how that could be. And no surprise, Ladd McConkey is the one that is getting the most hype. One of those guys that on a per route basis had very similar metrics to Puka Nacua, but like Nacua, did not get that full route share in college. Now they really don't have much of a choice but the Chargers to give him a massive route share. So could we see, I know it's like, who's going to be the next Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams? Those conversations are very often meaningless. But the rapport we're hearing about with Ladd McConkey and Justin Herbert, the per route efficiency in college, and definitely the opportunity is certainly there, even in a run-heavy Greg Roman offense. Let's talk about some of these quotes real quick. On a day where the starting groups went against each other, it was Herbert and McConkey's connection that stood out. He has been an every down fixture. He's been playing the 2-minute drill, 3 wide receiver sets, 2 wide receiver sets. We had Jim Harbaugh say he's been off to a really good start, really, really excellent route runner. We knew that, and he's been really good, really dialed in right from the beginning. Another quick drumbeat. The chemistry between Herbert and rookie Ladd McConkey is continuing to blossom. McConkey's been mostly in the slot. He's proven capable of winning easily and often in the short areas of the field. McConkey got 4 passes on Tuesday, 3rd down conversion. Charles Robinson was at camp on Friday, and he said, I had rookie to watch. Hate to go with the obvious, but 2nd round rookie Ladd McConkey was the first name presented when I asked which young guy from the draft had the staff most excited. The way he gets in and out of his breaks is already high level. I think they'll line him up all over the place, and he'll eventually develop into a, quote, target monster, those words that you love to hear. And then you're going to see even more, a fantastic touchdown pass. The first 2 drives, both of them capped off with end zone grabs by Ladd McConkey as Herbert was scrambling. That's the stuff I love. When the play's breaking down, he's just chucking it to him and letting him make it. You can even see it on Twitter right now going around, a great back shoulder. So it seems like he's like the broken play guy, the chain mover in 2-minute offense. He's involved in the red. Like, it's just all coming up spades here for McConkey, whose price is not rising right now, but I think it definitely should be. So he's the clear-cut number 1 guy. I know there's some hype coming up about your favorite, DJ Chark. I know you hate him. But he's running with the ones right now ahead of Quentin Johnson, who's also getting a ton of hype, but he can't even crack the first team lineup right now. I'll never buy Quentin Johnson hype, even though is it really going to launch? Going through, he's doing the same drills as DK Metcalf with his receivers coach. Oh, great. He got a bad rep. He's going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem for people. I've been nothing but happy with him. So many quotes about him. But to me, I don't know. I just see the player of Ladd McConkey. That's the guy I am 100% dialed in on. Maybe if Quentin Johnson fell, I'd buy it just to make sure I have a little bit of an exposure blanket. But I don't even know if I want one with him. I don't buy it at all. Do you have any read on the Chargers? I know I rambled a bit there, but this situation excites me. I've been diving in deep, and I'm so pumped to see Ladd McConkey getting the hype that he is.
Yeah, I think you adequately covered McConkey there. DJ Chark, I will begrudgingly capitulate and start to recognize that he is probably going to be a piece of this Chargers offense, and we'll have to be drafting him on my Herbert teams, unfortunately, even though I think he sucks. But Quentin Johnston, like, it's almost as if the Chargers front office is just like bag defending. Like, I get out there and I'm like retweeting like positive notes for Kyle Pitts because like I just have a shit ton of Kyle Pitts in these drafts, and like I'm out there like defending what I'm doing in drafts, and they're just like doing the same but with like an actual NFL team instead of a roster of fantasy football players. They're just like trying to spin this off as like not the worst like blown wide receiver draft pick in the first round in like recent history. Like, this guy is god awful. Like, you see positive quotes coming out from the Chargers front office and coaching staff, and then I see 2 videos of him like dropping passes. He's like trying to track the ball, but he looks like a middle school like little league baseball player out in right field who can't catch a fly ball when he's trying to catch these back shoulder passes. Like, the dichotomy between what's coming out of the Chargers front office and what we're actually seeing on the field, it is ridiculous. Like, I will not be buying Quentin Johnston. He does not look like a player who belongs on an NFL football field. Like, and I understand like this could very easily be me just taking a couple of clips out of context, but like, holy shit, like this guy, like it literally looks like a fantasy football guy trying to bag defend, but it's just the Chargers front office with their own draft pick. But so yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, pass on Quentin Johnston. Like, no, thank you. I saw enough year one. Like, people want to say like, yeah, but Devontae Adams, you should have seen his year one. Yeah, this is not Devontae Adams. Sorry. But that's enough. That's enough on QJ. Pass wide receivers. Jalen Polk, I have a ton of. I think he's my 4th highest owned wide receiver. I've got him in like 17% of drafts, I think. I'm very much buying the hype because it's usage hype. It's he's running with the ones from like day one of training camp. Like, how can you not be buying into that? He's getting reps. The expectations are big. I'm buying into that. So a ton of opportunity here in this in the Patriots offense, a very scalable depth chart. Pop Douglas was their top target earner and producer last season. He's kind of relegated to that slot role, so they won't be competing for snaps necessarily, but targets for sure. And then like Kendrick Bourne coming off the ACL, so you don't really know entirely. But I'm going to continue to buy Jalen Polk. Even as he starts to come up, running with the ones, very positive note. Javon Baker, I am not buying into the training camp hype. He has come down in drafts recently, but the clips that have come out in the last like 48 hours, I would bet he starts to come up a little bit. I mean, he's still going to be a pretty late and free pick, but I'm not buying into it. It's like one of those ones, like he makes a cool catch, and like people get excited about that because of that. It's nothing like really actionable or useful, unlike Polk getting reps with the starters. Like, I don't know, like a cool catch coming out of training camp, like the social team's got to post something. Like, I'm not really buying into it. Any feel here from you? You're probably a little bit more tuned into the Pat stuff than I am.
I would have had the exact same read not only 8 hours ago, but actually as of today, Javon Baker got his role increased after all the highlight plays we were seeing on Friday, Sunday. They ended up bumping him up to the top offense today, and he had a dominant performance in one-on-one drills, a bunch of catches in team drills as well. So it's similar now that there's a world where him and Polk are playing in the number one offense. I originally thought, Kendrick Bourne, he's been so good for us when he's healthy. It's kind of the veteran's role. Javon Baker's definitely clearly behind him, and probably even KJ Osborne, who was reportedly one of the number ones. But now that it really does seem like Mayo is open to giving these rookies a true shot, and why wouldn't you be on this type of rebuilding roster? So yes, we got to keep monitoring who are actually the number one receivers, but the fact that they bumped him up after those highlight plays and he continued to perform, I really like the dude. He's always had swag, talking about making people in wheelchairs stand up and all that. Like, he has come in and had that cocky kind of attitude. The other quote today that came out, Javon Baker simply moves different from the rest of the receivers. He boasts more bursts and sprints, almost with a non-contact form of violence. I don't even know what that means, but I want it on my team. I'll tell you that. I'm excited to get him. So the fact that you mentioned, as you mentioned, he's dropped 6 spots in the last round of drafts, I bet that does not continue. But even the fact that he's not going up as he gets time with the ones as compared to Polk, who is at cost. I have a ton of Polk. I love Polk, as it is with so many people. One of my favorite backdoor stacks to get Polk in those 130s. Drake May late, even though he might not be the starter. The reports are that Brissett has definitely been out playing, and even though May has been impressive at times, you're probably not getting a full season of him. Still a great backdoor, though, for that late stretch. But yeah, I think the latest reports on Baker do have me certainly a little bit warmer than you may be, and you probably will warm up too.
Yeah, and like I guess I must have missed the one where like he's like his role is changing, like he's running with the first team, and yeah, and also like my saying like I'm not buying it, like I was saying like I wouldn't be like buying a proverbial like rise in drafts like that, like this like my philosophy is like I'm not buying the rise on like the guys who are coming up because of these like clips. Like, it's not worth it. It's like, it's not anything that's actionable. It's not anything that changes their fantasy football outlook. It's just like people wanting to buy into things. So like, yeah, I'll have to go back and like double check the stuff coming out of New England. And like, yeah, if he's like going to be consistently running with the ones, yeah, I'm going to be very much in a free Javon Baker. We've talked at length about the Patriots being one of our favorite backdoor stacks, and I'll mix him in. And if he is in fact lining up to potentially be a starter or mixing in regularly, yeah, I will definitely have to start grabbing him more often. But Jalen McMillan, I'm grabbing double Jalen's. I have the exact same exposure to Jalen McMillan as I do Jalen Polk, both sitting right at 17%. And he just seems like he can just be this Swiss Army knife kind of guy. Trey Palmer, total jag, not a guy that he is going to have to like do a lot to surpass. Palmer, not like I'm not sold. And there's some people floating the idea that Chris Godwin return to the slot that we've all been excited about could be blocked by some degree to Jalen McMillan. I'm just, as a whole, excited about McMillan as a talent, and I have a lot of him. I think he starts the season pretty quickly, becomes the clear third wide receiver here, and pretty big upside if one of these guys goes down.
Yeah, the quote so far is that he put on a show in camp that Baker Mayfield called him a young stud with a ton of potential. And McMillan himself, I love this one. One of my biggest goals for camp is to make Baker trust me with everything in his body. Every single thing in his body, he wants him to trust him with. I don't know exactly what level he is going to there, but I love that he is that committed to building that trust. And it sounds like Baker has been peppering him early and often at every layer of the field. He has been working outside, inside, moving around, which he could do at college as well. So this is a guy that I do not have nearly enough of, but we know Liam Cohen coming over from that Sean McVay tree where they love 3 receiver sets. Seems like a no-brainer that he's going to probably be out there for 80% or so of the routes. He's a talented guy. I know he's behind 2 monsters in Evans and Godwin, but sounds like he's got some dog and some talent himself, is what the headline said. A dog waiting to be unleashed in the Bucs offense was the quote. The headline of the article. Come on. You got nothing more for me. I'm all in. I definitely need to get higher. I'm jealous that you have 17%. I'm at like 5 or 6, and I need more right now. So that's definitely one I am targeting. The last receiver on here, this one could be pretty quick, but we talked about the Bengals wide receiver 3 being a must-track situation. And right now, does seem like Andrei Yoshevich is the top guy. They quote said, nobody has seen fastest improvement of any player he's ever had, said the receiver coach. He also mentioned that of Chase Brown as well. It sounds like he is locked in right now to that 3 receiver role. Now, Burton is getting some hype as far as I've seen as well in camp, saying he's making some plays. But it does seem like right now, Yochevich is getting that shot to be the number 3 guy. I know you're a little more in tune with the Bengals. Is that what you've been reading, or have you seen anything about Burton leaving him? Or do you think Yoshi could be that kind of – he's still not getting drafted right now. I don't know. It seems like a pretty interesting spot to take some stabs.
Yeah, so I would definitely start recommending to start taking stabs on Burrow teams. The first couple of days of training camp, getting almost all of the slot work. That wasn't really something that was a part of his game in college or in year 1 in the NFL. But if he's going to be getting the slot work, we know how much 11 personnel the Bengals like to run. It was they were 3rd or 4th in the league last season in 11 personnel usage. So my take on it, and some other guys, Joe Goodberry, namely, who's very tuned in with the Bengals. I would guess that as of now, and the most likely outcome is that this is some sort of rotation for the 3rd wide receiver. And but if anyone's going to run away with it, it would probably be Yoshivas. And so definitely a guy who you should be taking stabs on late in draft. Super interesting athletic profile. And if he's out there regularly, he will be a value considering he's free.
Yeah, absolutely. I did mention, I thought that was the last receiver note, but I did want to quickly mention, type one in real quick. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch are running with the ones ahead of Zay Jones. Now, it's so early. We could see how this goes. I still like Zay Jones as a player, but it does sound like Dortch is locked into that slot role, also getting some backfield snaps was the latest report. I loved it. I know we got a couple people on staff. Liam loves the Dorcher chamber himself. I love that name. But also Michael Wilson playing ahead of Zay Jones is really interesting too. An offense that I think couldn't really take off. So just wanted to mention real quickly, we're talking about all the risers here. I thought those were a few names to bring up. And I didn't have much at tight ends. I know you put up that Tyler Conklin and Noah Fant are actually rising in drafts, but I don't know if there's any really attached to any news. It's just more so their prices are going up right now. The one news I did see, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about Conklin and Fant, but ultimately, one quote I did see was Pat Freiermuth. We kind of speculated this would be the case, that Pickens is the clear one. They had nobody really, though, at receiver behind him. And so the reports have all been, it's not a shock to hear Pat Freiermuth is having a solid camp, but he's reaping the benefits of being the clear number 2 receiver in the system, one that's frequently puts multiple tight ends on the field. There's plenty of stats out there. And I know Arthur Smith and Kyle Pitts was not a marriage that anybody liked last year, but ultimately he has targeted tight ends at a top 5% clip in every single year that he's called plays, whether he was with the Titans, whether he was with the Falcons. He was a former tight ends coach himself. So he is a guy that loves to dial up the position. It sounds like Freiermuth is just getting absolutely peppered. So I thought he was worth mentioning because he goes in that 130 or so range where it's really getting ugly and thin at tight end. You got a guy that was last year going around 8, around 9, just needs to be healthy. And shout out to I teach with his parents, which is also really interesting. He's a local guy from up here. So I always got to shout him out when I can because you don't get too many Massachusetts guys killing it in the NFL. So I got to get me some more Pat Freiermuth is how I feel.
I think you are completely discounting the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver room, the wide receiver graveyard, as I like to call it. Yeah. Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, Quez Watkins, Marquez Callaway. I think you're completely discounting these guys. I mean, it is going to be awesome to see all those guys out on the field this season. I love how well Van Jefferson can block, man. It just really gets me going for fantasy football. But yeah, your read on this is pretty straightforward. The second option in this offense, and it has been a gross split amongst the tight ends for Arthur Smith offenses in Atlanta, but it does feature the tight ends pretty heavily. So Freiermuth becomes an interesting stab in this range.
Yeah. And we're going to move to followers now, Wolfpack, but we're already at an hour 17. We want to get our draft in. And I do think it's much less important to go too in-depth on followers because you don't want to overreact. I think it was Eric BM before had a great tweet today about like how just 2 years ago Rashad Penny was injured and on the bubble and nobody really wanted him. And he ended up being one of the league winners of that season down the stretch. So you do want to be careful, just so you don't want to overreact to positive news and send these guys skyrocketing. I do think, though, finding those positive usage trends, who's more with the ones, who's meshing on their new teams, those things are important to read into. Where the negative stuff, and maybe I'm just the optimistic type of guy, I just though think that people can get a lot more trouble being overly negative with some reports. That being said, there are a handful that we have to cover, a few that are really, really concerning in those negative reports. And the biggest one to me is Kendre Miller. Saints coach Dennis Allen going out of his way to say Miller needs to figure out how to stay healthy. It's hard to make the team when you're in the training room all the time. I don't even think he was asked about Kendre Miller and somehow worked this into his answer just to make sure he could slam the guy. It seems like he detests him. Dennis Allen has never said a nice thing about Kendre Miller, and he doesn't really have much room to say nice things. Why should he? Miller has never been on the field for this guy. He had that one nice game at the end of last year, but otherwise he has been constantly in the tub, in the ice bath, doing everything but playing football. And so, yes, I understand the price at 150 where he was before. The bet made sense in terms of the situation, but it's one that people should, in my opinion, be willing to abandon fast when the coach hates the guy this much. It just is. Yes, there's a lot of volume up for grabs, it would seem, behind Alvin Kamara. But to me, this just means Kamara, he's the trustworthy guy. He could maybe use this in his contract negotiations. He's still playing with the dump-off Derek Carr. I just think Kendre Miller, he is no one I want to touch. He has fallen 16 spots. And I've been in drafts where I've seen him at like 186, 190. Maybe. I still haven't clicked him though myself. I just think it could be a complete zero. But maybe it is the Rashad Penny situation. Maybe he is talented. He looked good at TCU. But to me, this is just a coach that is never going to want to put this guy in, has no faith in him, no trust in him. So to me, at minimum, the 150 range where he was going with like the Marshawn Lloyds, the Jalen Wrights, those kind of upside rookies with contingent value, he's got to be going at least 30 picks later. I'd rather have Khalil Herbert myself than Kendre Miller. Are you overreacting to this one, or are you? I know you forced him on our team last week, so I don't know if you have to defend this one or if you're ready to cut bait with Kendre.
I do not have to defend this one. It feels bad after talking this guy as a fine pick. I did genuinely believe he was an acceptable pick at price and potentially even a good one. I will have to walk that one back. Thankfully, I am not like ridiculously overexposed to Kendre Miller. I was by no means a Kendre Miller stan. That was not me, but I thought he was fine. But yeah, it is concerning that he cannot stay on the field. Monitoring what kind of the severity of this injury and how much time he's going to miss will be important. But yeah, it is all it is all looking down for Kendre Miller, and I believe his price is rightfully falling. Another guy who I unfortunately discussed as a good pick at the end of drafts was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Did not see Deneric Prince leapfrogging him before the season even started in day one of training camp. All the reports coming out is that Deneric Prince is getting all of the second team reps in each day of these training camp practices. And Edwards-Helaire is not that guaranteed slotted in RB2 that I thought he was going to be, and many people thought he was going to be. So rightfully falling in drafts, and unless something like switches up here or like we get something out of these preseason games, he is not a guy I will be drafting, because the only reason I was drafting him is because I thought he was the signed, sealed, and delivered guy to back up Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah. Now, will you be switching up and taking a little Prince, a 5'11", 216-pounder with 4.41 speed, 9.81 RAS score? He made some noise in camp last year before getting cut, so I kind of worry about going too in on this news, and then suddenly Prince is just kicked to the curb again. So I haven't really mixed him in yet, but it's an athletic profile. We know the Chiefs have used quality athletes in their backfield before. The last round stab, maybe, but I was never clicking CEH. I never will. I don't know if I'll be clicking Prince, but I just know the argument of if you put Chiefs RB2 on the back of somebody and you had no idea who he was, but you had a clear running back too for the Chiefs, he would probably belong in round 15. I just don't know who that is. I don't know if I fully buy that it's going to be Prince. I don't know. Are you starting to mix him in at all, or is it just like, no one else in this backfield?
I am waiting for more confirmation. Either preseason reps, something along the lines of that. But for now, I am not drafting a second running back from the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes sense, as you just mentioned, to fire up the draft. So we're going to enter the draft. One other I want to make sure to hit, we got a couple other fallers that we could potentially touch on, but I do think Jordan Addison, we had that rankings debate episode just a few weeks ago. I was on the Addison side, did not anticipate him blowing 120 miles per hour to 50 or whatever the hell it was. His second offseason incident here with a driving issue makes it much more likely that he's going to get suspended. Similar to the Rashee Rice situation, we don't know if or when or how long, when it might hit, but that honestly makes it even riskier. It feels like this one could get pushed to like the middle of the year, or even worse, the playoff stretch run when you might have to have him. So ultimately, all the points I liked about him on the field that we talked about, you can go watch it. If you missed that one, it was a good debate. We had some great back and forth on a lot of players. All the things I love about him still apply on the field, but man, is this type of bonehead behavior really, really frustrating. And it's going to be, you look at the depth chart behind Justin Jefferson, like Brandon Powell and Jalen Neighbor. I don't even, some of these creatures I've never even heard of. So this would be pretty ugly, especially with Hawkinson banged up, depending on when he comes back. Should Addison get removed from the field? He's dropped about it looks like he's dropped almost like 14 spots now. I saw him there at 100 a recent draft, and I almost took him, but I still passed him up. Maybe I'm going a little too overboard now too, because I do think if the suspension is only a handful of games like Rashee Rice, we're going to really like this guy for the stretch run. It just matters when it comes or whatnot. You've already been kind of out on Addison, though. Is there a price now that he could fall to that you're like, okay, or are you kind of just like staying with your no Addison, no thank you?
Are you allowed to victory lap a fade because they get suspended for DUI?
Yes,
but
you can allow it.
Yeah, no. Addison missing half the season potentially, or no. So what the reports? Sam Sherman was the one who kind of looked into like the historical precedent of what these kind of DUI situations have been. It's like he pulled some examples of guys getting suspended like 5, 6, 7 months down the line, and missing a handful of games. So that could line him up to be missing time in the fantasy playoffs. So that would be just a complete nightmare. So yeah, I'm really not drafting him. I wasn't really before, and I will probably continue to not. I will probably keep on keeping on with my fade here.
Well, fair enough. I got to give you credit on that one for sure. The last
I knew I saw it coming.
You saw it coming. Yeah, you knew the dude was
100%.
I forgot completely. Because I gave him the forgiveness because he said it was because of his dog and he wanted to get home the first time. But now I saw something like he was drinking a mimosa or something in a video the next day. Like, come on, dude, get the hell out of here. The only other follower to mention in the draft is now fired up is Ben Sinnot's down nearly 11 spots at tight end. And I like this now. I'm happy to get into it. I totally get. I think a lot of people, Zach Ertz, they're kind of realizing that it will not be a clear runway. But just like it happened with Trey McBride, athletic freak. McBride was in year 2, had experience under his belt, so we can't just draw those comparisons neck and neck. But this was the second tight end drafted off the board, had a ton of athleticism. So I'll take him at 190 despite this fall here. And we are up and we are drafting. What pick is that? The 8th, it looks like we have? Yeah.
So running one of the running backs, Puka, that's really it.
I like either of the running backs. I know you mentioned you have a ton of Bijan, so if you wanted to pivot to Breece, that's fine. I like either of them, though. I love the hero running back builds myself.
Let's go Breece. Yeah, we're drafting here with Mr. Pete Overzet and some crazy people who want to take AJ. I don't think I can call it that crazy, but people taking AJ Brown at 4. So we'll see what we kind of get into with this draft room. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what kind of hero build we can craft. Good to see Overzet in there. Some definite names. I wonder if they're streaming side by side with us. Who knows right now? But yeah, I like Breece there. I think that makes sense to get a little exposure since we have a lot of Bijan in these drafts already. Let's get a different build. And it also sets up, I love, while we can still get Josh Allen cheap, this might set up that Week 17 game, get us a little bit of a stack going there. But tons of comments, guys. Awesome to see you. Let's start addressing these. Good to see you again, Thaddeus. bringing up the idea that Levis is Josh Allen 2.0. My God, I don't know if I buy that if he's not hitting his receivers in practice without pads on, again, not against the defense. But DGA, we're going to do a hero running back strategy. I know I wrote that big article on it. I know I've been preaching it. It's going to be a focus of the draft guide that will be coming out next week. I love the hero running back strategy. That's why I love that we're starting with it here with Brees. When you get that type of guy that could truly put together a legendary season. Who are we looking at on the way back here, Mo?
I've got Olave, Nico, Adams, potentially.
Like them all. I like Nico the most of the group. He's probably also who I have the most of. So it's up to you if you want to spread it out more. But I do like Nico's my preferred option there.
Yeah, let's go for it. That's fine with me. I have a ton of Nico as well. I actually probably do need to start getting things a little bit more in line with some of those mid-round 2 guys. I did see some people talking about it was Chess Liam, he former BBM champion, talking about Nico being consistently available at the 2-3 turn earlier this summer, which is just which is unfortunate. It is sad to see a player that you like coming up so heavily that now you're talking about taking him at 17 as opposed to like 25, 26. But it is what it is.
A lot of those teams, though, too, were also taking like CJ Stroud at 48. I remember. Remember when he was going that early? Now you're getting. I saw CJ Stroud. I took him the other day at 84. Me and you were like fist bump. We got him at 79 that time. Like he is. That's also why I like getting Nico right now. Is I think you can get some real value on Stroud, who I think belongs much closer to the Mahomes tier than he does that next tier of quarterbacks. Going in those 80s and 90s. I think Stroud really does have 5K, 40 touchdown upside.
That's kind of what you need from a pocket passer to pay off at like top 5, 6 type of value. So, but if it's going to happen, it's going to be probably Stroud or Mahomes. I would be remiss if I didn't briefly mention the potential for my guy Joe Burrow to do it 4,040, but definitely like the most likely Stroud or Mahomes. So I agree that he should probably be closer to Mahomes going in that pick 50 range as opposed to the pick 90 range. But I don't think we really talked about him. He is one of those guys who has steadily crept down drafts. He did peak right around that like late round 4 type of price, like in the 40s. And that was probably out of line. I wrote up an article saying it wouldn't be shocking if he jumped Patrick Mahomes, and I believe he did for a couple of days, maybe even a week in these really early drafts. He may have been ahead of Patrick Mahomes, but I think that he should be a little bit higher than he's pretty regularly available around pick 70 now.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely was going too early. Now he's definitely going too late. Bulldog, great to see you. Another regular, awesome. Mark G, great to see you as well. He's saying he's going to go first and Verizon follows. Maybe this is a deep cut or it's a joke. I have no idea. Nico Remigio, do you have any idea who that is?
I have no idea who that is.
Mark
that would be a name learning for me.
I don't know who that is either.
Player. That's actually an NFL player. Yeah, that's me learning a name there.
I wonder what it is. Bulldog saying Chase Brown getting more hype. We were certainly hyping him today, and I hope Mega Chrissy Pissy is here because he just comes out flat with Chase Brown sucks, and maybe he does, but I think it's pretty early to make that claim. He certainly didn't suck in college. He was a workhorse. He did a ton of good things at the college level, and when he got used last year, again, second fastest ball carrier speed in the entire NFL. He had these glimpses of some real juice. So I don't know what that's based on. But yeah, what do we got here?
I've got Pittman here in the queue. We could go Tank, or we could grab Henry and just go running back heavy for one of the first times ever.
I like taking a receiver, whichever of Pittman or Tank you feel better with, just because I would like to see if Allen makes it back to us. I do think Tank makes it like we'll go Pittman. That's fine too. Because now it opens up. I don't have much Richardson, and I know Richardson I'm lower on in terms of the ECR and whatnot, but I can recognize, despite being lower on him, that is a guy that could ruin my season if I don't have any of him, for sure. So that opens up that. Yeah.
Personally, Tank Dell is my most owned player in general.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was factored into that pick. And Michael Pittman, I believe I only have a couple of shares of to this point. Like I am grossly underweight on Pittman. And I believe it was Josh Norris of Underdog Fantasy making the case that that the Pittman Richardson stack could just be the one that just goes nuclear, like it was with AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts when Brown first moved to Philly. Like you could get Brown in like round 5 and Hurts in round 6, and they both went absolutely nuclear and were just like that league-winning stack. And I do think that is in the range of outcomes for Pittman and Richardson. I don't like Pittman as much on this half PPR site, where I think he has a fairly limited ceiling, but at the end of the day, he's going to likely be up there for the leaders in the league in targets. I don't know. He's not going to compete with some of the top guys, but he'll more than likely be up there just given that like RPO stuff and him being the first read so often. So I like grabbing him a little bit here and there just because I think I need to bump my exposure.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I do like getting more Richard. I have some Richardson in DraftKings. I've gotten him in like the 70s on DraftKings, but I got to still get some on Underdog where I'm drafting so many teams here. So I get it. And I'm with you there. All right. I like Pickens. I like Pickens more than T. And I do think Jalen Hurts has fallen too far here. But ultimately, naked Hurts is not justifiable. I'd rather go Pickens myself with both those tight ends gone too, and Kelsey and Laporta.
That's fine with me.
I know you're not the biggest fan of Pickens, but another guy, this is kind of the team that it seems like we're building towards is like, man, they could just destroy us if we don't have guys that we don't typically draft. And
these last couple of picks for sure.
I heard it might have been a ship chasing. I forget whose it was, where they were talking about it. Don't fall into the trap of like, well, I got one guy I never draft, so I'm just going to load this team with contrarian plays. Like in that sense, you almost want to more so like try to make that team good, because if that is the guy, let's say Pittman, like we barely have him, but he does just jump to 10 touchdowns this year, and him and Richardson's that crazy stack that you need. Then you still want to try real hard to build a good team around him. This guy must be real pissed with AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts getting sniped right in front of his face. Oof.
Oh, he's very happy. A non-badge sniping a badge bro who took AJ Brown at pick 4. I'm sure he is not irrationally pissed off and wanting to punch his screen right now.
Exactly, because I loved what he was trying to set up there with Wedgie Man in terms of like, yeah, you're really going to draft. Like he probably was planning like Devonta Smith in round 3. If he falls to me, I take him, and then nobody has any interest in Jalen Hurts at that point. So I could get a late Jalen Hurts and build around that and getting sniped right off the jump here. But at the end of the day, too, though, I don't even blame, like, that is just so cheap, 44 for Jalen Hurts. Like, I'll admit, I've taken a few naked Jalen Hurtses when he's fallen like the 40s. He's going to probably be the quarterback 1, if not quarterback 2. And in terms of value over replacement, him and Josh Allen were significantly above the field. So that at 44 is just like, I get it. Like unstacked is bad practice and blah, blah, blah. But like Jalen Hurts isn't one that you need to have stacked because he's going to run in 17 touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, it's all like the speculation on the tush push and stuff like that. And that's really what his value has been driven by. By far the league leader in 1-yard touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. So it's that's where his value is driven from. And if they go away from it, it gets pretty gross pretty quickly for Hurts. But I do think that in the 40s is a bit too much for allowing these quarterbacks to slip. Like I said earlier in the show, pretty used to seeing these guys up in the 2nd round. And now that Jalen Hurts, who is a perennial contender for the QB1, he's going in round 4. It's kind of nonsense. And like you said, I think that these guys are primed for a big steam up draft boards as more people start drafting these teams. So I think that grabbing him in the 40s is a good call.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the closing line value. If nothing else, it makes sense there. We got a good question. We're going to answer this one for you in a second. Jaws, great to see you consistently coming in asking about a second for Moss or Chase Brown, but we have some picks to make. Do you think we go with the stack right now and make sure we get it, or do we try to see if he comes back to us?
I don't think we push it. There's a lot of people without quarterback, and people are willing to take Richardson unstacked. This is right at ADP.
And there's
as well.
nothing that there's just nothing that I love there either. I like Godwin. I'm fine with Cook. I do like Mixon, as we talked about, but yeah, there's nothing sitting here that's like, oh man, it's worth pushing it and seeing what happens. I'm with you there.
And yeah, with a guy like Richardson, who people are willing to take unstacked, like you can't really push his ADP unless people behind you have a ton of quarterbacks.
Right. And that was the whole point of it. We've talked about why we don't have a lot of Richardson. This is the draft to go out and try, get us a share here. And we're building well around it. I like the squad we've got. So far, again, Breece Hall, Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, George Pickens, and Anthony Richardson through 5 rounds. I dig it. So Jaws' question here asking, you trying to get a second from Moss or Brown in Dynasty 1 QB, no bites? I'm surprised that you're not getting a single nibble. I guess it depends on, how late the second is. I would be intrigued. I'd probably move a late second for Chase Brown. I don't know if I do it for Moss. We know what he is. We've seen it, and it could be useful this year, but I think his shelf life is pretty short. But I could see Chase Brown, if he has a dynamic year this year, being one of those running backs that is pushed up to the top of round 2. So I guess it depends on where that second's falling, but I'd probably be more expecting, though, to get a high third. But no, I think Chase Brown's probably worth a second in Dynasty. I think you could probably get some nibbles there. I don't know. What do you think as a Bengals guy over there?
I mean, yeah, I just think the lack of clarity in who's taking over this backfield is probably driving the lack of interest. Obviously not really aware of your league dynamic and whatnot. But I feel like especially for Chase Brown, the sort of talent that he flashed, I feel like he should be probably just I would hold out and see if the ball continues to roll for Chase Brown in these next couple of weeks of training camp. And if you're in a spot where you're looking to sell, I feel like that's a fine guy to sell for a second rounder.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get it. So yeah, is this the top of the queue? James Cook went. I didn't see him ultimately go. Him or Mixon are gone. He tried to hide Ridley from me over there.
Yeah, I'm keeping him as far away as possible.
I like any of these 3. I like Ridley because he correlates and gives us another receiver. But if you want White and you're trying to bump that up, that's fine with me.
We'll go for it.
I like Ridley. You get the week 16 correlation with Richardson and Collins Richardson and Pittman. And again, it's the wide receiver well is going to dry. And there's so many smart arguments against Ridley, but I don't know. I really think people are overlooking how big of an impact freeing him up with motion, freeing him up, so because he was so good against man and zone. It was just press coverage he was very subpar against, but they refused the Jags to move him around and free him up. So I think there's some upside there for sure.
I continue to go back and forth. It's one of those things. Both the top 2 Titans guys and Rashad White are two of the situations I just keep going back and forth in my head on. Looking more to the Titans guys. The Jaguars pigeonhole him to this awful role that he has never succeeded in. All of his success has not been as this boundary X guy. It's been more as the guy that they are constantly getting moving in the formation. And he wasn't that in Jacksonville. You go look at his, you can go look at his next gen route tree, his targeted routes. There's just so many vertical boundary routes. And that's just not who he is as a successful receiver. And we know that DeAndre Hopkins is successful as that kind of receiver. And the fact that Hopkins is probably going to fill that role and that and that we've already gotten word from Brian Callahan that they want to use Calvin Ridley as like this guy who's constantly getting in motion, moving to different parts of the formation and running these crossing like horizontal more than vertical routes. It's like I can convince myself of him being bad, and I can convince myself of him in a new role like working out just fine. It's a constant back and forth.
Yeah, I think you summed it up real well there. The back and forth, especially then, it also all comes down to is Will Levis any good? And
Yeah,
I'm starting to just get shaky on that too. And Rashad White's an interesting one too, in that Sean McVay, Liam Cohen system of the zone blocking, the marrying the run and pass. Like I am on the fence with him too. So I get what you're. I was hoping Evan Ingram would fall to us. That was kind of what I was about to get to. Is I like that Week 17 game, the Jags versus the Titans, but sadly Ingram goes 2 picks ahead of us. One question I was going to ask too is, what about Diontae versus Calvin Ridley? Because I saw, I know it's not quite where the ADP is, but wouldn't shock me if Diontae is going in that like 65 range by the end of these drafts. And we both talked about wanting to bump our exposures. Is that something that you'd consider?
Like it seems like let's make this pick here.
I like Colby, by the way, because it correlates with Breece Hall and gets us another receiver, and our receiver firepower is going to look real solid by then, unless you prefer Curtis Samuel to him.
No, that's okay. I need more Coleman anyways.
I was pissed to see Ladd McConkey after the hype bath we gave him earlier. I would have loved Ladd.
That would have been nice. But it's going to let us hammer running backs in the range that we have typically enjoyed hammering running backs anyway. Yeah. So, and hopefully squeeze a tight end in there somewhere. But Diontae versus Calvin, I feel like just Deontay's like, it's hard because like I feel like if Deontay's a win, it's a small win. But then again, we've seen like we saw Bryce Young support Adam Thielen as a top 5 guy for a month and a half, and a top where did Thielen finish? It was like wide receiver 17 in PPR, right?
Yeah, and he was like top 5 for the first half of the year.
I don't know where his half PPR finish was, but he was like top 20 full PPR. But I just feel like it's a small win with Diontae Johnson if it is a win. But I feel like Ridley has the path to being a pretty big win. So I don't know. I want to have a more Diontae Johnson than I have right now. So I am more interested in grabbing him at cost than I am Calvin Ridley, because for what I've talked down on Calvin Ridley, I am actually like overweight on him. I think it's also just my interest in getting pieces of the Titans passing game, and this Jags Titans game is part of what's driving that. But I'm interested. Like I said, it is a constant back and forth for me for Ridley, but Diontae Johnson definitely interested in and want to have some more pieces.
I know, and we're going to pick our pick, but I do want to return to Ridley in a second. But let's see what we got here on the board. It is our running back range. Is there anybody? I don't love all of these guys. I like Ramondre. He's probably, you start him, and I would say I don't have enough of him right now.
Yeah.
And the Steelers guys are gone, who I would have normally preferred. Unless you like Aaron Jones, I like going Ramondre here.
I don't super love Aaron Jones, to be honest. But this range, usually bank on like one of Brooks or a Steelers running back. And I guess it's good to diversify here and grab someone else. But yeah, my typical go-to guys there are Brooks, Connor, or one of the Steelers guys. And with none of them on the board, obviously unable to do that. But getting back to Diontae.
Yeah. Oh, and more so Ridley actually is, if you got what he did with the Jags last year, which I think we can agree it's mostly a better setup. I get Lawrence is probably better than Levis, even though Lawrence really wasn't that good last year. But just in terms of the wide receiver usage, let's say those things balance out. Like if you got what he did last year on the Jags, everyone seems to hate it, but you got 5 games at over 22 points in half PPR too. like huge spike weeks. At a wide receiver 4 in the 60s, like was that good for his wide receiver 3, in the round 3 price, around 2-3 turn by the end of the offseason? No, that was not worth it. But in the 6th round at 65, like, yeah, I'll probably take 5 to 6 20+ games. Maybe that balances out because the usage is better. Like, I totally get all the warts with him. He's only had really one true great alpha year, and he's hurt or he's gambling, or who knows. There's a lot of question marks here, but they paid him a ton of money. They clearly believe in it. It is scary that it comes down to Will Levis take off, but hey, maybe he is, as Thaddeus says, the next Josh Allen, and we can really bank on it.
If Will Levis is the next Josh Allen, I may win $1 million.
I would definitely win $1 million. I have quite a bit of Will Levis, which terrifies me. But yeah, so and I know we were talking about the Bengals backs with Moss and Brown, and again, I would definitely see if you can move Moss first, because if one of those guys in Dynasty is going to become intriguing, it's Chase Brown is the lead back this year. He is explosive. He has 60% of the touches, and he's ripping off these long plays. And now you got a lead back in the Bengals offense with 4.4 speed. That's the guy that like you could be jumping into a dynasty asset that really lasts. So I would definitely trade a second to get Chase Brown myself. And I don't know that I'd be in a desperate hunt to move him either. This one's interesting.
There's no reason to like be super interested in moving Chase Brown. I mean, you don't really know what you have just yet. I mean, he was not on the field often at all last season. So I don't think that you need to be urgently interested in moving Chase Brown. But we're about to be on the clock here. We're kind of in that bottoming out tier of tight ends. So I've got Njoku queued up, and he goes anyways. So time for plan B. We don't really need wide receiver. We can grab another Javonte share here.
I like Javonte, and then ideally maybe Chase Brown makes his way back to us.
That would be nice. I think Javonte is a good call.
Yeah, I think Javonte is a nice call. We talked about all the things we like about him, and then Chase Brown would correlate if he does come back around.
Yeah.
Are you using – so does Goddard go ahead of Njoku now, or is that like a different –
No, these are my rankings.
Oh, okay. You put in your personal rankings. Okay. I was wondering. I was like, that market shifted.
I'll keep it filtered by ADP just or I'll try to remember to. But yeah, these are my rankings. So
yeah, I think Lockett's worth starring here too. I think Cortland Sutton's worth starring here now that we got some Broncos. Like we don't desperately need a receiver. But we're at the range where like tight ends, it's like Njoku, you're right, was like if he was there after him, it's a cliff. An unstacked and uncorrelated Goddard makes nothing to me. Brock Bowers is long gone. I would have liked Evan Ingram. I really don't know where we could have gone tight end. I guess maybe Kittle instead of Ridley would have been.
Yeah, I had him queued up, but it is what it is. Kittle ended up seeing a pretty significant fall, which is unfortunate, but would have liked to have him. It is what it is. We'll just have to do a little punt tight end action here, and
this is a 3 tight end build. We're gonna punt. We're gonna correlate with our QBs. We'll make something work here. I don't know about Jelani Woods, but we'll find something.
I've already got Chig on the top of the mind, grabbing Levis and Chig.
Yeah, Levis, Chig.
That's already on the top of the mind, but
mind is in bad places. But I could see it. For sure. I think Chase Brown makes sense here.
Yeah, we will be the guy chasing him up the draft board.
And I'm good with it. Like he's playing with the ones. There's so much upside, and I could definitely see him going. I mean, if he is actually the starter for the Bengals by the time the season kicks off, why in God's name would you ever take Zamir White ahead of him? There's no argument. There's no argument. You could never convince me.
I mean, like, there is.
There?
It's a bad argument. It's like a volume-based argument. Like, Chase Brown, not ever probably going to be a bell cow. Like, rushing work bell cow. I completely redact the argument. I'm not going to make the argument.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, the argument where it's that we know Chase Brown's the starter. We don't know that. Zach Moss could definitely take over between now and then, but like there's definitely a much more realistic world that Chase Brown could be the starter. I put it the fact that he's running and opening with the ones, it's who they want to be the guy. So he has to fall flat on his face. Could he? Absolutely. But man, like if he is the starter, that whole running back tier, like of Zamir, DeAndre Swift, like I would rather have Chase Brown as a clear starter in a Bengals offense than any of those guys. I still don't. I want to hear the why he sucks argument. Maybe he does. I'm not saying he doesn't, but how could you draw that conclusion based on what we've seen so far? It's just been so limited. And maybe the argument is he was so limited because he sucks. Maybe, but when he got used, he looked good last year. So, and in college, he looked really, really good. He had plenty of great metrics. I can't buy that. He sucks.
I mean, I don't think you can paint the argument that he sucks, but like that good, definitely you can paint the argument. I mean, like super low success rate, like NFL running backs that are liabilities in pass protection don't have the most promising outlook in general. Those are really the two main points. Really, I mean, like the small sample size, you can just argue it's like just a flash in the pan type of deal. Yeah, but full on sucks. I don't know about that. Like there are definitely some worse talents that people prop up, namely probably Zamir White.
Yeah. We're about to pick, but I do want James had been waiting with his question about Mixon's not a pass protector, which I'm not sure is true. I wonder how we define it. Maybe his PFF passing blocking grades are bad or not. But I don't feel like I've ever seen Mixon like get Burrow blown up or too often. You watch more games than I do for the Bengals for the whole game, though. Is Mixon a crap pass protector?
Let's make our pick here. I had Goddard queued up.
That would have been a nice fall for Goddard.
Yeah, he goes. We could go Freiermuth here. A couple picks ahead of ADP. Other than that, nothing super intriguing on the board. We could grab like another wide receiver here.
Yeah. I'd wait on Mike Williams, maybe making it around.
Downs. We could grab Downs or Freiermuth.
Yeah. Let's go Freiermuth. It's a nice safe tight end.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
And then we have
AD Mitchell's gone obviously at this point, right? That would have been a nice range for him.
Yeah. Seeming like some of these guys have been hammering wide receivers, so maybe they put the brakes on a little bit. But yeah, Mixon in pass protection, really poor PFF pass blocking grade, pretty bottom of the barrel to be frank. But he really wasn't asked to pass protect a lot. He was running routes a lot on those third down snaps, so it really wasn't like it was poor. It was a poor grade, but it wasn't really a lot of volume of pass protecting snaps. And that's part of the reason why I think that they brought in Zach Moss, because he has been just a quality, reliable pass protection type of guy throughout his career. And obviously they knew that Mixon was they didn't obviously know, but once they moved on from Mixon, the clear next guy on the depth chart was Chase Brown, and he had his fair share of struggles. So no shock that they added a guy who could be reliable in pass protection, because I think at this point in his career, the health of Joe Burrow is of the top priority. And that move to grab Moss really doesn't shock me at all.
No, 100%. Moss is a very good pass protector too. So that's, completely makes sense. So Mark G with the Nico Remigio also bringing up, I don't know who that is. So I still am intrigued there, but he brings up a name I do know, and I wouldn't be shocked to see rise, is Jawar Jordan. Now he's the backup for the Texans here. And so it's one of those things where like apparently Pierce is looking okay in camp right now. Even if not, they signed Cam Akers, who I don't believe in at all. But it seems to me like if they really love Jawar Jordan, like it's something they wouldn't be bringing more bodies in; they'd be getting rid of bodies. So maybe, but I don't know if I buy it. All right, we're on the clock. Downs goes right before us, huh?
Yeah, absolutely brutal.
Too. Damn.
I don't mind Leggett here. Kind of just Just
I mean, one guy I barely have any of is Gabe Davis, and that does correlate with Week 17 with Ridley. I know it's not fun. I don't
no
love Leggett though.
unstacked Gabe Davis, really?
Yeah, but it's correlating. It's Week 17 with Ridley.
We timed out. I can't get behind weeks or unstacked Gabe Davis. That it's just empty routes.
Maybe when he shows up though, he shows up for like 20. Like if he shows up for 23 times this year, and one of them's in Week 17, and that forces Ridley to get going himself. I don't know. But let me see the total queue. Who's gone since we took him? Dowdle, I don't hate, but we have good running backs. I would have preferred Pearsall. I mean, I don't have a ton to get, but like,
have you talked to our I'm going to say Liam, but Liam from RSJ. Have you talked to him on Leggett?
Is he a big Leggett guy? The Dortch?
I think he's at like 35% Leggett.
I know he wrote about him, and he wrote a good argument. Like I get the case, but I'm just like this 5th year, senior that's like 75 and then breaks out. I don't know.
Like the path to like paying off in a like significant way is just like so much more clear for Leggett than it is Davis. Like you're like with Davis, you're hoping.
I don't like Gabe Davis, for the record, by the way. I don't think I've drafted him once. Like I just want to make sure this guy. I'm gonna let you go, but I do not have a single share of Gabe Davis. So I just want to make that very clear. I'm not arguing for Gabe Davis other than that. Like, nothing made sense there other than Week 17, maybe.
I understand. Yeah. But with Davis, you're just hoping that you get a handful of points in the right week. But with Leggett, like there's a path to him like being a legitimate part of the offense and like being like he's not going to be the clear number one ahead of Diontae Johnson. That's I think a little too outlandish to say, but like ping-ponging weeks where he's like kind of the go-to, not necessarily the go-to, but like ping-ponging weeks where he's the target earner versus Diontae. Like I don't think that's crazy to say.
Ping-ponging weeks for Bryce Young's attention. I don't know if that's where I necessarily want to be.
Better than Gabe Davis, though.
As a best case. At least Trevor Lawrence is the guy slinging it deep down to him. I don't know. And he's going to be on the field because he can block. Like, if Leggett hits, he could hit big. I get it. He gets the end around. They're talking about all that creative usage. And I like Canales. So if he's going to go for a guy, okay, I should have some faith in it. What it really comes down to is it sucks that both Josh Downs and Mike Williams, who would have correlated well with our lineup, who we both – I like both those guys. I know you don't love Mike Williams, but he would have made sense with Breece Hall there.
I would have taken him in the name of putting together a good team.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. We got Leggett. It's a rookie, and it's a rookie I don't have much of. He goes in like the 160s on DraftKings. It's what a lot of these times come back to. It's like I just get a ton of them on DraftKings. But hey, we'll see how he pans out. I guess we didn't need a running back at all. But like Marshawn Lloyd, damn, like I can't take Leggett over Lloyd. I love Marshawn Lloyd.
that's and I do too. I think he's top 5, maybe top 6 in terms of my highest owned running backs. I don't really have a
running back for us. Like we already had 4, right? So like, and 4 with a first rounder, we didn't necessarily need him at all. But like, so we could do some tight ends, right? Is that what you're looking at? I mean,
yeah, I'm looking at a tight end here.
What makes sense in our lineup? Like we have Patriots already, so maybe Ramondre. What's the bye week for our first tight end? I think
it is week 9.
I'll get one of them before Levis.
I got it figured out. I just because this sets up backdoor stuff for Drake May too. So
it does, right? And then we could always get a Chark or some Chargers mixed into the mix here.
Exactly.
Demario Douglas is sitting there. I like Burton sitting there still because we do have a little bit of a Bengals and Broncos thing already cooking. So if Burton makes his way to us, I think he'd be the play here.
No No, that would be a reach on Levis. We could probably wait.
Yeah, I'm not that sold on Levis.
Yeah, I think
We're playing that Richardson stays healthy and is like the guy that had 4 touchdowns in 2.5 games. If he gets hurt, like we worry about, we're not winning anyways. So Will Levis isn't taking this team from the ashes. So hopefully we can get Levis on the next way. So where did Hopkins go? I think he went like literally the pick right after us, right?
Let me go check.
Because if that guy has 2 quarterbacks to 3 quarterbacks, I feel better.
Yeah, Hopkins went right after us. This guy's got 1 quarterback in T-Law, which is pretty brutal.
So Levis probably is not making it back to us.
Yeah, I think we're setting ourselves up for Patriots.
Yeah, or so what we could play that as is Richardson's bye week 14.
Yeah.
Because that's Jerk May too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's not.
And I was gonna say, Bo Nix, he's 14 too, because if we're doing like a Burton and then Marvin Mims or something. Oh, I mean, boy,
we could just reach. We can reach on Levis.
Yeah,
I don't like any of the options.
Well, I want to show. Yeah, I was thinking like Juwan Johnson, Derek Carr later, maybe.
Skinny stack with a player who's hurt is brutal.
Yeah, Burton goes to. Yeah, I guess we just got to do it, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's just an ugly board. I hate to reach on freaking Levis, but
it's also. But he's not going to get back to us, and then we all would be punting week 14.
Yeah, there's really no other. It would have had to be Derek Carr and
skinny stack Derek Carr would have been awful.
Yeah, that doesn't feel good. I know. And it's not like Burton went the guy that I was like most excited about, like if he was there. And we already talked about it. Yoshi might be the number 3 anyways. So
yeah.
Is Burton that exciting right now? I still like Burton. He's still exciting as a player, even if it's not starting the year, but he could continue to fall. So I would not be shocked.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, are people like that? I haven't seen like any of the big accounts like reporting on like the Bengals wide receiver 3 job. It's like kind of required you to be like pretty tuned into this kind of stuff. Is like, I don't like is the Yoshivas like steam and like Burton, like is that going to be significant?
Whoever's the wide receiver 3 there is going to be significant. So I do think it is important, but
no, I'm talking about like are the reports going to like affect ADP? Because I haven't like seen them on like a national scale. Like these like kind of Yoshivas is like taking a lot of these slot routes. Like I haven't really seen those outside of like, unless people are like specifically following the Bengals beats.
Yeah, I get what you're saying on the national stage. I think it changes only if, and actually I think it will change because people are kind of dialed into like, and if you're not, you should be, the pro football focus snaps in the preseason. And like if Joe Burrow plays a series and Yoshevich is in there for all the snaps as the slot guy, and heaven forbid he catches a touchdown, then the world will lose its mind. Which he could. I mean, didn't he have like 4 touchdowns in like 2 starts last year? Like it was nuts.
It was a lot of red zone usage. I don't know the exact numbers. It was a lot of red zone usage and a lot of touchdowns relative to how he was used. So
we got to draft Yoshi at the end of this. We've talked about him enough. Like let's queue him up for round 18. We already have Bengals and Broncos. Like I'm excited about him. I think he's a really interesting profile. And I was reading because we had the notes on him as we talked about him. The guy he worked out with, the receivers coach, that said, I've never seen someone improve this fast. Have you seen his track record of like the guys he's coached?
I have not.
So he's coached Brandon Ayuk, Jacoby Myers, Evan Ingram, Dontavian Wicks are his last 4 clients. I mean, I guess I saw Ayuk and I was like, oh man, this must be good. I guess he got a little less great, but like, I mean, those are all NFL players, and Wicks is apparently the second coming of Christ in fantasy this year. So, I mean, if Yoshi's improving faster than him, apparently, and he's in an offense that might be a clearer 3 wide receiver sets, this is like the Bengals, the deep cut Bengals hype pod is Chase Brown and Yoshi. Like we're going 100%. All in.
We're all over it. I'm thinking running back here. Don't really want to grab Gibson, Mitchell, Irving.
Oh, we have Ramondre.
Yeah.
What else is out there? Can you show me the full board before we? I like
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert myself out of all these.
Yeah, I'd get a ton of Khalil.
Marvin Mims, dude, to queue up the that Broncos matchup. I like Mims the most.
Sure. Oh, I'm not going to get it off, am I? Nope, I didn't get it off.
Why don't you just click it in the draft thing? You can click the arrow and draft them.
I actually right-clicked on my laptop.
That
was a fuck up.
So,
what is
that?
Bad.
Shig?
That's like my second. That's my second miscue on the sticks.
Well, so click on the tight ends. Let's see who's there at tight end too, because I bet my boy John who's there.
No,
he's not. All right, so tight ends are kind of ugly and it correlates. It could have been worse.
That was really bad.
And Mims might make it back to us, and then we would
have
gone.
That was real bad. I mean, like 15 picks ahead of ADP at this stage. Like, I'm not sweating it entirely, but that was pretty bad.
I'll tell you this: if Mims does make it back to us, you're off the hook. Because like you could go Mims, and then you probably would have gone Okonkwo the next round to get us a third tight end that correlates. And
it didn't work.
Mims does go, so now you're an asshole. But
I get to take Jalen McMillan instead.
I love McMillan there. Yeah, that's fine. It's not. I don't think it's that bad. Like, and I have so much Mims, and I don't know that I love that. I like it.
I also have a ton of Mims. You just hate to misclick.
Yeah, misclicking's never fun.
So these last couple of picks, we probably just hammer a couple of these late round running backs.
So what do we have? We have Brees, Ramondre, Javonte, Chase, and then we have 4. Okay.
Yeah. So one running back and a receiver.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, probably Chark, maybe if our guy Chark falls to us, or Yoshi. No, we already talked about Yoshi. We gotta take him. I mean, Estime would be the back I would love if he makes it.
Yeah.
I guess we have Javonte, so it's not great, but it's betting on the backfield. Like if you took Achane and certainly Achane and Mostert last year, but even if you took Achane and Jeff Wilson when Jeff Wilson was healthy, you'd still be happy that at least you got one of them. Not that Estime and Javonte will be even close to that, but like I wouldn't hate Estime there. Tyron Tracy he was one that I liked too. But I don't mind again because I have so much Mims. And it's like Mims versus McMillan. It wouldn't shock me at all if McMillan outscores him. So
it wouldn't shock me at all if Mims is like a rotational receiver. Like,
yeah,
it's like this guy. He was full blown part time, and Sean Payton continues to say, "Oh, we got to get this guy on the field," but they just don't. Like, they just like refused to get this guy on the field last year. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But there's reason to believe Audric Estime makes it back to us here, even though I don't know if he is perfect with how we already have Javonte, but not crazy to take him in my opinion.
No, I was gonna actually toss out there, and he went Justin Fields because we had Pickens, and I was like, yeah, maybe a late season Fields, and if something did happen to, Richardson, that kind of buoys our rushing upside. I was gonna also say Baker would have been nice, or Chark, but they go bang bang like that. All right, so why don't you show me the board here?
Yeah. So
it looks like. I mean, is Kendre? Is this where we have to just take him?
It's pretty free. It's pretty free.
Yeah, but it's free just to have a dead spot because he gets cut and then no one wants to sign him. I mean, you are looking at this and it's like, oh God, like if Foreman
goes anyways.
Dylan Laube.
I would go there.
We could go a little Laube. I'll let you choose between Miller and Laube. It's up to you.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, because this is the range where it's like this is actually one of the ways you can get different. So I think it makes sense where it's like 185 to 215 are all kind of a who the hell knows, but not a lot of people will go like 215 guys. They'll often go in the order of the ADP. So the fact that we're going to have Yoshi and Labe like is a very random combination, but if those somehow end up being the two guys that are like really important breakout guys late, like then that could work out pretty solid. For all the like weird clicks and like misgivings, I can't say this is my favorite team by any means, but it's not bad. Like it really isn't that bad.
I am starting to just very much enjoy Anthony Richardson teams. I have slowly but surely like just started to convince myself of that he should be drafted as like the QB4. So like pretty.
Wow, you
pretty
flipped
high.
on that, huh?
I mean, like I don't know. I just enjoy teams with Anthony Richardson because I just convinced myself that he should that he can just absolutely dominate fantasy football this season. So
he could. I mean, he could run for 20 touchdowns. So like it could be madness.
20 touchdowns would be pretty wild.
That was the pace he was on for last year. I'm not saying he will. I don't think he will by any means, but even like 12 touchdowns would be crazy. Like
that would, yeah. Like it would be. That's what you need for him to pay off. Like in a big way, you need double-digit touchdowns. Like, and it's going to come down to the split with Jonathan Taylor. Like how just usage in the red zone as well as. So I'm going to go Yoshi here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. This is where it's like Kendre Miller. Hey, folks, talking about a faller today. Kendre Miller is still on the board and nobody wants him. And this is probably like the Rashad Penny, like, are we overreacting? Because at TCU, he was really good. And there was like a reason the situation was good enough for him to be in the 150s. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with it. I don't want him on my team. So I get why he's not getting drafted now. But that seems like a pretty big falling sword. I don't know.
He should be getting drafted. I see why he isn't, but he should be. It's not. He's a player that is like Kadarius Toney got drafted in the 17th round in this draft. I can wholeheartedly say that Kendre Miller is a better pick than Kadarius Toney.
Ray McLeod? What is happening?
He was running with the ones ahead of Rondale Moore.
Oh,
that's
kidding
literally
me.
all it was. That's all it is. This guy's got cousins too.
I mean, that's not nothing though. I can't believe Rondale Moore is not running with the ones.
Yeah, behind Ray McLeod, a guy who can't even hold on to punts. But it is what it is.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, things get a little spicy here in these last couple picks because of these training camp hit pieces.
Ray McLeod going for Kendre Miller. Again, I don't like Kendre Miller at all, but like that's
welcome to Training Camp Newsweek. Pretty ridiculous stuff.
That is absurd. That's the guy that took AJ Brown fourth and was hoping for the Jalen Hurts build, I imagine.
Oh yeah, had to completely pivot.
Oh God. We do have some questions. We'll do our team review as well. But yeah, so we had left off one real time. We were talking about Javonte, our guy Thaddeus here, and we ended up drafting him. So hey, I can. So Thaddeus often will say like Javonte about to blow, and I'm not very hip. I don't like that could go one of two ways. Is he about to just blow, like suck, blow on a bunch of insert words, or is he gonna like blow up? I think he probably is hyped because like look at all the exclamation points. But for the longest time, I thought Thaddeus was like this dude's about to suck some dick this year. And like now it's like clear that he's like thinks he's gonna blow up.
It seems like this is positive, but yeah, I am not going to speculate there.
Thaddeus, you got to clarify for us. You love Javonte or do you hate Javonte? I think before, because every single time he's commenting, he's about to blow. So I think he meant blow up now, and it seems like he's up. So Estime or Chase Brown, who would you rather have? I don't know what the settings are here, Dylan. I love a comment from Dylan coming up here. I certainly in redraft it's Chase Brown. It's not even a question. And I think in Dynasty too, like I like Estime, but we already kind of outlined the case for what Chase Brown could be. He could be a 60% touch guy on a Bengals offense for the next 5 years tied to Joe Burrow. Like that's the ceiling case. is Estimate ever? I mean, Estimate's ceiling case is like Sean Payton loves him. He stays there for a while. He continues to churn out these top two backfields, and he's the touchdown Mark Ingram kind of guy. So I like both of these guys. I like Chase Brown probably a good amount more though in Dynasty and certainly in redraft. Do you feel similarly?
Yeah, I think we've talked about both of these guys extensively today. In a vacuum, it is very easily Chase Brown for me.
Yeah, regardless of the format, and I think Jaws outlines it too in terms of Estimate hasn't even secured the 1B. Never mind the fact that Chase Brown is looking like the 1A right now. So CB could be matchup proof. Yeah, exactly. Like he could be if he really is the every down back. Like, man, that could be nuts. I doubt it, but that sniped on Brown went yeah. So they're both good picks though. You just saw us Adams like weighing it, Dylan. So you got that. I like the chat helping each other out in the middle of each other's drafts. Good stuff. I wish I could have got. It sounds like you would have gotten sniped anyways. Eddie Phillips. I got one quarterback half PPR dynasty questions. Should I trade the 107 in this year's draft and a late first next year for Cooper Kupp and Tank Dell? I mean, this one definitely comes down to how close you are to winning it because the 107 for Tank Dell, I like. The late first for Cooper Kupp, if you're right on the cusp, could Cooper Kupp do Cooper Kupp things again this year and just go bananas? Yes. It's a pretty steep price to pay, but you're talking to a huge Tank Dell stan. It sounds like he's your highest exposed player, so you're also a Tank Dell stan. So I think a lot of people probably say, no, don't do this deal. But I'm leaning towards yes if you're like this is the move that really could push it to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a like without considering like situation for your team, just like raw assets, this is a horrible trade. But if this is what pushes you over the edge and like you're contending for a title and you're just kind of thin at wide receiver, I would say do this. But if you're kind of like a middling team or not contending at all, I mean, given that you think that the pick next year is late first round, I'm assuming it's yours. I would say that you are likely a contender. So if this is the year your team is set up to make the push, I would say go ahead. But if you don't think you like, if this isn't what like pushes you over the edge, yeah, don't do this. I think we're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah, absolutely. Mortgaging the future to not. I imagine you must be contending to even ask the question. So yeah, I kind of think if it's the one that puts it over the edge, I do believe in Cooper Kupp, and I don't know that he's done. Like 2 bad years with injuries, it's concerning. But there's a world where he has another like 2 to 3 years of just like it's Cooper Kupp. Like who knows? I do want to do our team review, but it does sound like Estime was showing good receiving chops. He was always like he didn't get used a ton as a receiver at Notre Dame, but when he did, he was always fine, and he was very smooth in like the combine receiving drills. Like Estime definitely has that in his repertoire, which makes me bullish on him. Let's do our team review, and then we'll get to the rest of your questions. We got over 240, 235, 240. Love to see it. Thank you guys so much. As we're doing our grade here, if you enjoyed what you saw, you got any questions, type them on in. But that thumbs up button, especially on YouTube, but it's certainly on X, retweets, shares, all that good stuff. It really does help us get out to more people. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening to us and all of the training camp news and notes you need to know so far. Let's dive in here with Breece Hall, Nico Pittman, Pickens. I love the start. You go with the hero running back build. You kind of don't have to take 3 straight receivers after, but it's really hard to take many more detours, which is one of the negatives of the hero running back build on these best ball teams. But ultimately, you can. I think we did it just right, where we got 3 great receivers, detoured with Anthony Richardson, and then stacked Pittman. I really have no interest in Pittman if he's not stacked with Richardson. Like, if you're making that bet, you're betting on the Colts to just go bananas. Shane Steichen, best pace in the league, most plays run, that type of stuff. So the way we did it, again, it's not a bet I often am making right now, but it is a bet that I could see win the whole thing. So I like that I did it right here. I think that's a really strong start. I don't know. What do you think about those first 5?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. When you go running back there early on, you got to hammer receiver. Not guys that I typically grab in Pittman and Pickens, but got to get some exposure to some degree in these guys. And when you, like you said, when you're grabbing Pittman, it makes the most sense to grab Richardson. So just philosophically liking like grabbing 3 wide receivers in a row there because it's pretty hard to make up for it if you're grabbing just taking some sort of detour there in round 3 or round 4. And I was thinking about potentially grabbing Laporta if he was there for us at 41. Obviously didn't have that choice to make, but that would have been an interesting little conundrum for us if we did have that choice to make. But ended up
him or Kelsey anywhere in that like 36 to 40 range. If one of those two fall, I love it. Like I think those guys are going like round 2 in drafts right now and redrafts. So
crazy.
They're another few names that I could see getting bumped in like the mid thirds sooner than later. So the 4th round exposure to those tight ends is awesome right now.
Yeah.
I fully love that, but unfortunately neither fell to us.
Yeah. Moving into the middle rounds here, Calvin Ridley to set up some stuff later on. I'd also just think like this is just typically the range that he goes in. I probably would have gone Odunze there ahead of Ridley. Obviously, once again, not really an option available. And then Keon, and then we do our running back spree. Any thoughts here on these middle rounds? I was kind of shocked to see Addison go at 81. I really think he should be going later than that, considering what could potentially be coming. But any thoughts from you? Obviously, we would have liked Lad McConkey there after we hyped him up so much, but once again, not available. But any place you would have pivoted here?
I don't think so. I was hoping where we took Ridley that any of the 3. I saw that all 3 Chiefs receivers were still there with Worthy, Hollywood, and Rashee Rice. It's never a guarantee that any of them will make it out to you. I've seen Worthy fall a little bit more. And I would love to have some Steelers Chiefs correlation. So I was hopeful that either Worthy, Rice, and maybe even Hollywood might make their way to us. Unfortunately, they didn't. I love Ridley. I do have a lot. He makes me nervous. So I was hoping that something else would draw me. I think Odunze would have made sense there had he. And then again, Ladd over Coleman would have preferred that by a long shot. But I don't mind Coleman. And Coleman certainly correlates too with Breece Hall. So that worked out for our lineup. And again, like 5 receivers in those first 7 rounds, and then the Shrek turd, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Chase Brown, like that. I know we were considering Rachaad White, but like it's just so much clear evidence of why to not do that at least until this board starts to shift. Because like Ramondre, Javonte, Chase Brown with Breece Hall already on the lineup is phenomenal. I think the question is like, could we have worked a tight end in anywhere? And I guess that's where like Kittle over Ridley could have worked, but then Coleman's your 4th receiver, and it's now with a Pittman you love, and you don't love your Pickens bet. Like, I think it's fine. And I'm fine with a 3 tight end build, especially like Freiermuth. I know it was a reach, but like it correlates. Hunter Henry, we took some stabs at tight ends that are like later guys, but guys like that are going to probably see. I mean, Freiermuth himself could see 100 to 120. Hunter Henry probably 75 to 90 targets, and then Chig 15 rounds. I won't comment on, but I don't know. The Shrek turd is real nice here. Like I think we got ourselves a nice green pile of RBs.
I think this is a good way to complement Breece Hall, and then you really just don't have to address the position basically for the rest of the draft. Obviously, we tack one more on at the end. But I think we could have realistically stopped at 4 with Breece Hall and then grabbing 3 guys in rounds 8 through 10. I like the Freiermuth pick for a punt tight end team, and I think the Hunter Henry pick is a good way to follow it up as a secondary tight end. And I do think Chig's a good pick. Obviously, could have had him in the following round, but it is what it is. Ended up getting Jalen McMillan, who I think is a good pick here in this range. So I'm not. I was upset there for a minute, but being able to grab McMillan there, for me personally, with how into grabbing him I am, that cured my my Chig Okonkwo woes pretty quickly at the turn there. And then the 5th running back, we added on a guy that getting steamed up a little bit, not necessarily in terms of ADP, but just in the reports coming out of training camp. Usually grab him in the 18th round, but we kind of knew what we wanted to do in the 18th round. And I think grabbing him in this spot is fine. And a path to unseating, supplanting Zamir White, not completely out of the range of outcomes.
Yeah, it really comes down to like, was the Kendre Miller? Yeah, again, come 214 here. Do we pass? Is that pass acceptable for a complete unknown in Dylan Labe? I think it was. Again, like I guess Kendre, like if you're going to get your exposure, this is where you want to do it, because there is the world. It is like this year's Rashad Penny. Maybe he's a great fit for the Kubiak blocking scheme and ends up taking off, and the injury was much ado about nothing. But those comments were pretty damn hateful from the coach. I did notice too, Leggett and McMillan, that actually correlates week 17.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, McMillan has nothing to do with our lineup, but hey, maybe the two rookies are taking off and have a big back and forth battle. I think it's great. I like it. Yeah.
But
I think Yoshi too. We talked about it quite a bit, but like he is the number 3 for the Bengals. And Burton just doesn't supplant him for most of the year. If not, never mind. If Yoshi ends up being that guy all the year, that has the league winning upside too. In a range where receivers are completely dried up, like the Bengals wide receiver 3 would be a home run in round 18. Never mind like where Burton went, like that would have been a good value. So, and it seems very real that Yoshi could be that guy. Like it does not.
It is. I mean, like every single slot snap in day 1 of camp, the majority of slot snaps afterwards. And I mean, if he is fine, like and successful, him keeping Burton off the field for the majority of snaps this season isn't crazy to say. I mean, he looked good in a limited capacity last year. The coaching staff seems to like him, a quality athletic profile. And so, yeah, I think you can kind of like, you can paint the picture for yourself where he is the guy, the third guy rather, in Cincinnati.
Right. We're not talking about a crusty, like old placeholder that is just ready for Burton to take over. Like this is a young talent that flashed when he was used last year, apparently took the biggest leap of anyone, a receiver coach that has Ayuk and Myers and Wicks and Ingram on his resume. Not nobody's by any means. Says this guy took the biggest leap I've ever seen. He's a year 2 guy that flashed. Like this could very well be. I think we've kind of uncovered somebody. I don't have any much. I really have no Yoshi. But the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, this seems like a very big oversight right now.
I think I have like 2 DraftKings shares of him, but I agree, an oversight for sure. It's easier in the round.
Where does he go? Is he like 270s on DraftKings? Like you got to scroll all the way down to find him?
He's totally free. He's totally. It's like it's not even like I'm scrolling to find him. I'm like searching up his name. Yeah. It's not.
And that's where you have 20 rounds too. So I got to start adding more of it. Like him and Lobby are those guys. I always get Lobby. I have like 50% exposure to Lobby on DraftKings right now because he's my round 20 special. But you have those 2 extra picks, and those guys could be waiting for you. Because like Samaje Perine, another one that range. I think Yoshi though, that's the one that I'm going to kind of try to turn up a little bit here. And maybe Burton supplants him, because then the thing with this too is like if we are right. So what do you win when you're right? We always ask that. It's a great. I forget who started that question, but it's a great way to think of it. Ben Gretsch always says it on his pods. And it's like, if you're right with Yoshi, okay, one level of being right is he's the number 3 receiver. You should have been taking him over Burton, where Burton's going the 160s. That's one level of right. The other level of right is he's that guy, and then T. Higgins or Chase gets knocked out. And now you have Burrow's number 2. And now he's like the guy that you actually really legitimately need to win down your stretch. There's that exists with him. And I'm pretty fired up about him. He's somebody that I maybe that's a little stock watch I'll write up tonight after we hang up. I like this guy. Like we've uncovered something today, Mo. I like this one. I hadn't given him much thought, but that's one that I think a lot of people should be paying more attention to. So
I think so too. Just kind of after watching him more closely than other people did last season, I liked what he showed on the field. So, and with a relatively clear path to earning the 3rd role, and because like I wasn't considering him because I never even thought of him as like a slot guy. Like I was just like, oh, like he's gonna have to compete for these outside reps. Like hopefully he'll get on the field in like the 11 personnel when Chase bumps into the slot or something. But if he's the guy running out of the slot, like that's a potential for a lot of routes if he
Yeah.
if he monopolizes the slot role.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think I'm that I have about 50 more BBMs and he could become a staple of my last 50 here. We'll see, but I'm definitely going to be monitoring him, and I think it's a very real it just again it's not an old crusty guy that's blocking Burton. This is a guy that could just be better outright. I love Burton as a dynasty guy. I think he's a really interesting profile. Maybe he does unseat him. It sounds like he's doing pretty well at camp too, but it's Yoshi's job right now. It sounds like he's doing nothing but confirming that he belongs, and he's gotten good hype that nobody seems to want to pay attention to. For an interesting year two guy with size out of the slot for Joe Burrow. Just how is this guy going in the last round? I don't know. You could tell me he's going 5 rounds earlier, and I could still probably tell you it makes sense. So, hey, we'll see. But I am a big fan. Maybe I'm going crazy. Let me know in the comments if you guys think I'm nuts or if we've unearthed something together here tonight. Maybe we found the Millie Maker player tonight, and hopefully we get him on the right roster. We'll see.
I don't think you're nuts, but I may be a bit biased.
Yeah. In other news, Dylan Adams would rather smash his nuts than draft CEH.
In redraft, I understand. Earlier, a month ago in best ball, I think it was a fair case.
Yeah. There was the argument again. Chiefs running back 2. That guy belongs rostered. It's not CEH. And I also am that's always been my argument, Dylan, is he's burned me too many times that I don't want the kick to the nuts. I'd rather just do it to myself instead of have CEH do it to me again. Dylan Adams, I had the 112 in a redraft super flex, went Bijan Chase, and still got Dak to a Rodgers. That's a pretty nice way to start. I feel like super flex is so different. You're so at the will of the market, but it sounds like you kind of saw that quarterbacks after the first few teams were gone would be patient, and Dak, Tua, and Rodgers is a very solid 2 QB room to start with. A top 3 at receiver and running back is awesome. I think it's great.
You can't be upset about that at all.
No, that's a great start, Dylan. And I don't know if I could go too deep here with that. Thaddeus, we love you. You come to every show. You're the man. And we have Will Levis here. I hope he is Josh Allen, but I cannot. I can't get into that tonight again. There's no way Will Levis is Josh Allen 2.0 when he's sailing it over his receiver's head in practice without pads on. Maybe. I hope he is. Thaddeus, I hope you are right, because that would be great for our team, because we'll
be rich.
We'll be rich if you're right, Thaddeus. And then, yeah, maybe we'll shoot you a little bonus for your hype and joining us here for all of these. And his foot is healthy, so he'll be mobile. Oh, is Will Levis not healthy? I don't even know. I'm going to move on from Will Levis, even though I actually have a lot of Will Levis this year. I do not expect that to be turning into Josh Allen 2.0. So if it does, Thaddeus, I'll buy a Will Levis authentic jersey if I win more than $1,000 from a Will Levis team.
I think that's a fair agreement to make.
If Will Levis makes me more than 1,000, I will buy a jersey, a thought. I'll try to get a signature on it.
I'll commit to that as well.
Yeah. I think we talked about Jones, and wasn't there a stat that O'Connell doesn't really like to throw to his running backs very much? I don't know. If maybe he just didn't have the right guy. O'Connell's enough of a nice play call that I would never be he doesn't ever throw to his running backs. I wouldn't discredit him like that, but I don't know.
I don't have a number or a specific take on Aaron Jones' pass catching role. I mean, I know he's good in that role, and I would anticipate that they properly use him to that capacity. Yeah.
I just worry about the injuries and the lack of production from backs with the Vikings in general. But it is. Yeah. I mean, Jones looked so good down the stretch last year. When he was healthy, it was Aaron Jones. So, but I just really question at his age, could he stay healthy? Give me Ramondre. Give me a little bit more of a bruiser, a guy that younger, just got paid. I'd rather have that. And so blow up is a good thing. Must have. Okay, so we've clarified that. Thank you, Thaddeus. What's going on, Austin? Great to see you, brother. Always here, always there. And this is my old college roommate that I was telling you about that went to camp. You got a shout out earlier, Doyle. I don't know if you were here for the whole show, but I mentioned that I've been in on Levis, and Levis's butt. That was the description that I got from camp. I still respect the Titans for serving beer at their training camp practice.
That is wild.
But have you talked about Will Shipley? Here he had a good day in camp, and wondering what you guys think of him as a handcuff over KG. I mean, we've read the same stuff about KG too, though, right? That he's running with the ones again. I think it's one of those things where it's like Saquon's probably the money they gave him. He's going to be like a 75, 80% guy. Like this is not going to be the typical weird rotation of the Eagles. And so if he did get hurt, okay, yeah, it's a valuable line offense that's going to put up points. But I do think we'd be getting like a Gainwell, Shipley. Maybe they even bring in some big back, like three-headed, disgusting nightmare. I don't know. Like Shipley was a really intriguing prospect, like a 4-star recruit, like athletic, has a pass catching profile. There's a lot that should intrigue you about him, and certainly he's starting to get a good beat. But I don't think this is a situation where you get a handcuff. Like realistically, I'd rather have Trey Sermon, which is I know Sermon is butt cheeks, but like he's the only number 2 right now behind Trey Sermon in a good behind JT and a good offense. And JT's been missing time. I feel like the Eagle situation, you're just getting like gross. Like it's going to be nasty. And in that point too, we also went Dylan Lobby early. Like if I'm going to go for this weird like rookie pass catcher, give me the guy that like could be starting as the pass catcher from day one and maybe even unseats the guy in front of him in Zamir White, who probably is not that good. I don't know. What do you think of Shipley? I really have not been giving him much thought, but Doyle knows his shit. So like maybe I gotta pay attention.
Yeah, it's intriguing that he's getting like these positive reports. But I agree. I don't think there's like really a 1-to-1 handcuff here. And like as much as I don't like it, like the Philadelphia organization has shown like a weird coaching staff rather has shown like a weird commitment to Kenneth Gainwell to like use him and just like give him touches. So I feel like that like sort of like that commitment it would like carry over, even though like Will Shipley, I don't like. I want to be intrigued, but I at the end of the day, I don't think it's a 1-to-1 handcuff whatsoever. And I would guess that Kenneth Gainwell has the edge because, like you said, it's the similar positive reports. Like both have been quote unquote running with the ones. Both have been reported to have some nice catches, whatever that means. Like it's kind of the same stuff coming out of camp, and yeah. Like it's whatever, and it's not to the point that I'm willing to think like obviously like Shipley's the more exciting option over Gainwell because we know what we're getting out of Gainwell. It's like not much. Like he offers some in the receiving game, and we don't really know what we're getting out of Shipley. But yeah, I really think that this is kind of gross. Just if Saquon goes down.
Yeah. I think it's going to be hideous. Oh, so he wasn't even he was 5-star. I thought he was a 4-star. So I get that, but that's again high school, and he didn't do a ton at Clemson. Like I was very intrigued, but like exactly they didn't live up to the hype. So like if they didn't do it in college, are they really going to like suddenly realize the potential in the pros? Does it happen? It does. It's happened, but it doesn't happen. It far more often misses and. It's a last round pick, so like I get it. It's a stab, and why not take it? But like again, like nobody's even got it. So they're probably just like, why do you guys keep coming back to the 5th receiver on the Bengals? But it sounds like Yoshi is the 4th receiver, or 3rd receiver rather, in the slot receiver, big slot. Like that's a bet. You might be talking about Dynasty too, Doyle. I'm like, I get it, but even in Dynasty, like I feel like Yoshi should be rostered right now. Like this, there could be something here. Like Andre Yosevich should be rostered in your dynasty leagues, should be last round picks. I was going to say, like, after we go tonight, I was going to tweet, like, yeah, we just discovered the best last round pick in best ball and put his name out there. But I kind of, part of me wants to just like keep it to this view. Like, this is, you were here, you were part of the 260 that were with us when we uncovered the late round winner. So maybe we don't spread it out. I'll give it at least a couple weeks before I tweet it out there. But
see what kind of drumbeat there is. Yeah,
see what the drumbeat does. But then again, we would be like, I don't want to be one of those things, like the drumbeat just keeps getting louder and louder, and then we weren't out. Like, clearly we were out in front of it because we're talking about it right now. But like, I wouldn't have the tweet stamp. So I don't know. We'll see. But I I don't know. I think we unlocked a round 18 right now is kind of ugly. A lot of people already kind of knew about Dylan Labe. Nobody's talking about Yoshi, and I think there is something there. Maybe Burton unseats him, but I am really interested. Yeah, exactly. Now Doyle. So he was just texting me about Kadarius Toney and Rashad Bateman the other day. So we're getting the bias coming through. I knew he was definitely sitting there in your taxi squad. Oh man. But no, that was a fun draft. A little unorthodox in some moments, but
it was weird.
Good. We got sniped a couple times at inopportune times, but I think we pivoted and did the most with it. And I'm excited to have a Richardson team. I don't have many of those, so I'm excited to see.
We'll grab a few here before these final 38 days.
Yes, exactly. 38 more days for drafts. We will certainly be doing them every Monday now at 7 p.m. A little bit of a schedule shift, but great to see so many of the regulars are still following, even when we have that different live time. It will be 7 p.m. on Mondays for the rest of the summer, so you guys can kind of set that to it. And we're going to be getting live at least 1 or 2 more times a week. Tony, the crying, laughing faces, as deserved. Thank you, Thaddeus. Put Doyle in his place for me, please. I can't do it with the Tony crap. But yeah, 7 p.m. best ball stream. We'll always have a topic before we go, and then we're going to find one more time with probably more of a redraft focus. But if you're looking for that, we'll also have one time a week with redraft, and maybe we'll get more live shows going. Who knows, as we wrap up the summer. Mo, anything you want to pump before we get out of here?
Nothing in particular. Keep an eye on the Roto Street Journal Instagram, where our staff draft just wrapped up, our staff redraft league. Yes. I'll be posting the teams there, and you can judge, grade, do whatever you want, pick apart everyone's rosters. Should be fun. 12 of RSJ's own, and I went. Wolf was in the 12 slot. I was in the 2 slot. I think we both ended up with some solid teams. I was kind of looking.
I like how yours came out a lot. That'd be a fun. Maybe if we can find another time this week, we can do some team grades of the our draft. That could be fun. Show. I'm sure that could be a good way to get him going again too. Running back 1, QB1, probably not receiver 1. Yeah, he's nothing. Doyle, get the fuck out of here. But awesome, guys. And keep your eyes peeled. By this time next week, the draft guide should be live. So if you want to support your boys, we don't charge for any content other than the draft guide. It'll probably be like 10, maybe 20, probably $10 though. And the support means the world. It goes such a long way. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I've been grinding away in the cave. It's kind of why I don't have anything going up on the site written by me right now, but all our other content from Mo and all the other writers at rotostreetjournal.com is all A+ stuff. And find me at RotoStreetWolf. That guide will be live soon. I'll be out of the cave, and it's a good one. I've really enjoyed putting it together so far. So hopefully you'll be willing to support your boys and check that out when it's ready. You can always get a shirt too at shop.rotostreetjournal.com. But until next time, in a world full of fantasy sheep, guys, be the wolf. Thank you so much again. Awesome to have you with us tonight. Later.